we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving into public input. Maria, did you check to see if there's anything over there, any more folded in? No. Okay, thanks. Perfect. Okay, so it looks like we have just one person that wants to speak, Janelle Dexter, regarding policy 2520, supportive teachers.
Janelle Dexter, librarian, Lakeland Middle School. Good evening, board members, Superintendent Arnold. I am here tonight in support of our Lakeland teachers and the issues surrounding policy 2520. This is the policy regarding supplemental materials for use in the classroom. The issue stems from the ability of teachers to use supplemental materials they need at perhaps the last minute, and the board's policy of having everything used in the classroom approved beforehand. In the world of education, this is just not feasible. Teachers must constantly update and change their lesson plans depending on the individual class itself, because as educators know, not all students learn the same way. Teachers must have the discretion to find the materials they need to support the learning environment of their students, as adopted curriculum never comes with everything that may be needed. Great teachers, like our Lakeland teachers, know that in order to be effective in the classroom and engage students with the desire and drive to learn, a variety of materials needs to be used to provide and enhance the subject they are teaching. Teachers have to be able to use current articles from newspapers or internet sources. They need to be able to create their own supplemental curriculum at a moment's notice instead of waiting for approval, which could be several weeks away, at which time it's no longer needed. At the May 29th special meeting, Trustee Jones said, "The problem lies here in that we end up being a roadblock to the efficiency of the district's efforts to do what is right in adopting curriculum and materials and taking care of our kids." I absolutely agree with Trustee Jones, but I also agree with Trustee Grissom when she said, with all the legislation coming through the last couple of years, that's where our hands are tied. She went on to say she agrees with Trustee Jones and that it's frustrating to think that we have to look at every piece of paper. It's true that our legislators have not made it easy for school districts with regards to educational laws. Some laws are vague with no clear-cut information, like HB 710. Still others are overreaching and, as Trustee Grissom said, tie the hands of school boards and districts. However, Idaho Statute Title 33 Education, Section 33-118-2 states, "The board shall determine how and under what rules curricular materials shall be adopted for the public schools." My interpretation of this is that the board may choose which materials actually need to go through an approval process. In other words, it would be at the board's discretion to allow teachers, to trust teachers to use supplemental materials they deem necessary to help their students learn. Yes, the board must have a supplemental review committee for new novels, websites, or curriculum that will be used in the classroom in the future. But teachers must have the flexibility to be able to change up their lesson plan if needed. It is my hope that the board reconsiders the need for every scrap of paper found at the bottom of a desk drawer, every worksheet found in a file cabinet from years past, or every small bit of information a teacher finds that helps them in their classroom and grants them the trust they deserve to know what can and cannot be used in their lesson plans. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we'll enter the budget hearing.
Good evening, board. We have spent quite a few months working through on this budget together. So the packet that I prepared for you tonight is a culmination of that work. I'm going to try to go through it pretty quickly because we have worked on this pretty extensively. General fund, or I guess I'll start on enrollment. We are projecting that we'll be about 100 students down in the fall, which has an impact on our funding from the state. We're also anticipating a decrease in our salary-based apportionment units, going from 222.5 this year to 215 next year, again due to that declining enrollment and attendance. So with those assumptions, with the general funds, we're estimating to have about $44.7 million in revenue, 49 if you include the fund balance. Broken out the budget for every program that we have. So this is similar to the financial report format that you're used to seeing on a monthly basis. At the bottom of it, I'm anticipating utilizing $729,000 in fund balance, leaving a $3.7 million fund balance. That leaves us at 8.15% of fund balance at the end of the year. It's a little bit more than we were anticipating, but some expenses have come in higher than we were anticipating when we had our initial discussions. My hope is, as we get through September and we see where our enrollment lands and then we see where our staffing is at that point, that I can reevaluate the budget to make sure we're being as fiscally responsible as possible and moving things around to either have some savings so that we're not eating into fund balance so much, or that we can move some more into operations, because we did hit operations pretty hard this year. So, any questions on the general fund?
I have questions on the enrollment numbers that you gave us on the graph, and when you say we're down enrollment, not actual attendance, right? And we're being funded on enrollment or attendance this year?
It's
okay.
Attendance, yeah. So I gave you enrollment just because it's an easier one to look at. We're about 92% attendance. So that definitely impacts our funding.
Right.
If we had students attend more, we would have more money.
So the number you gave us is enrollment, not attendance, and we're being funded on attendance, so we don't have those numbers then. In here?
No,
or
not
with
here.
the- okay, we weren't provided those numbers, where our funding comes from. And then the SBA units that you gave us, were those what we actually got from the state, or were those projections from the prior CFO? This graph?
That graph, so that it is correct for it is correct up through this year.
So this is what we got, this is what the state said, yeah, not
Yeah.
those projected numbers
Right,
that we
so
were
it's
given.
222.5 was what we received for this fiscal year. I'm projecting us to be at 215.
Okay, so so we don't really know yet because.
Right, because we
Okay.
haven't started school.
Right, yeah, okay, I just wasn't clear on that, all right, so
Yeah.
we are still being, and we're running that early enrollment, right? So we can like try and get the attendance numbers.
Right.
But we only have about half of the kids have registered.
Yeah, and then what week is that when we do the attendance to report to the state?
It's
What week is that?
First Friday of
First Friday.
November.
First in November, okay,
It's the first 10 weeks of school is what
10 weeks, okay.
that's based on.
All right, those were my questions, that's all. Thank you.
Can I just clarify really quickly?
Yes, of course.
While we don't get funded on enrollment, our enrollment matters because it's right now our ADA is 92% of our enrollment. So when the enrollment goes down, that 92% number also goes down. So
So
it is important to just pay attention to that.
Any other questions on the general fund I can answer? Okay. Moving on, we have the federal forest funds, Fund 220. This is federal funding that's paid to counties. It's passed on to the school districts affected by the decline in revenue from timber harvest on federal lands. We received information this year that we should not budget any revenue for it for this year, so you'll notice that I do not have any revenue budgeted for it. We do anticipate a $45,000 carry forward from this current fiscal year. We are budgeting, like we typically do, there's $8,000 in there to pay for our NIPTech consortium dues, which is our, that's associated with our K-Tech participation. And then we have some funding in there for equipment and capital expenditures. We didn't spend the money this year, other than the NIPTech and some small items out of there, so that's why we have such a large carry forward that would allow us to have a budget in there this year. Any questions on federal forest funds?
So the ending fund balance budget of $20,000.
That's this current one, but so the columns that I'm showing you are the FY23 actual expenditures, the FY24 budget, where we had estimated a $20,000 ending balance, and then the FY25 budget, we're actually estimating a $45,000 beginning balance because we didn't spend all of the money this year.
So then the ending fund balance of $20,000, which is a budgeted amount, is
For this year, so that column's for this year. The last column is for what I'm projecting for next year.
I understand that. What I'm trying to draw the point at, we have an ending fund balance of 20,000. That should roll over to 20,000 into the budget for fiscal year 25. But you're saying it's 45.
Yes, exactly.
So the 20,000 is incorrect.
The 20,000 is correct because it's based,
That's what was
that is
budgeted.
what the adopted budget was. But that adopted budget wasn't spent, so we had more funding. We are going to end with more fund balance in 2024. So the actual new projection is 45,000, so that's what that's what 25 budget is based off of.
Right. Budget, again, is our best guess estimate of how we believe that we're gonna end the year. when
No,
we
that I
begin.
understand. That I understand.
Okay. Any other questions on federal forest fund?
Why did they say not to expect any?
They didn't give a great response. I haven't gotten a good answer on this one, but it was at the sales tax commission workshop that they had, that they just said not to anticipate to receive revenue from that this year. If we do, fantastic, but I didn't want to budget it knowing that there was a
Right.
chance we wouldn't receive it.
They just said, well, we
Yeah.
just decided maybe not.
Yeah, I can find some more information out on that. They haven't given great guidance on it just yet. I will say that this is one-time money. We don't ever use this really to plan on having every year because it is so in flux on whether or not we'll receive it, so.
Yeah, I was curious, I mean,
Yep.
like why they're, just decide.
So the next fund is Fund 231, which is our facility funds. This is from local sources. We have facility use fees, recycling, energy rebates, and other local sources flow into there. We also use this fund for insurance claims. So if you remember this last year, the Lakeland High School fire and a lot of the damage that we had from the sprinkler system issues during the freeze, that also flowed through this. So I'm anticipating for FY24 budget, we anticipated we had a $147,000 fund balance. We're actually going to end the year with $141,200. You'll notice new to this year, I've also added a line item specific to the THS field house so that you guys can see the money that we have in this account specific to that project that's being brought in from donated sources. We are tracking interest from that separately and keeping it in that fund balance line item so that it's very, very clear what is local facility funds and what is related to that project. With that, not knowing whether or not we're going to break ground on that project next year, we didn't really budget for a lot of expenses out of this budget.
What's the fund transfer?
The fund transfer from FY23, I believe we had, I can look into that for you, John. That was right when I started. So it happened during FY23, so I can look for you. Any questions on the facility funds?
What if we do break ground on that?
Then we will have to have more revenue in there. I anticipate that project's gonna be upwards of $600,000. We only have 284 for it. So until all of the donations come in, we won't be able to break ground
Okay.
because the district is not
Okay.
providing any money for that project.
Right, okay.
Yep. Next one is BASE. BASE is our before and after school program. It's currently available at 3 elementary schools. We're working to ensure the program's operating at max capacity this next year to break even. If it does not break even, there is a real likelihood that we will not be able to operate BASE in the future. They were running in the red this year. We had fund balance to take care of that, but that's not going to last forever. We anticipated we would end the year at $156,000 in fund balance. We're actually going to be closer to $100,000. So if we can get those 3 buildings at max capacity for enrolled children in the program, then it should be a non-issue. If we're unable to do that, then we'll have to have some conversations regarding that. Is there any questions on BASE?
So we have to be at max capacity just to break even.
Yeah. And we would also, and hopefully I have it in my financial follow-up later tonight, but we're hoping to run summer base next year. And that would potentially help. When we ran the numbers this year, we were not going to break even. I couldn't even imagine the cost of what we would have to charge to break even. We only had about 15 participants for summer base, and that's just not enough to run a program of that size. Okay, the 242 is our literacy funds. These are state revenue dollars that we receive. They are in and out funds, so we basically use these for K through 3 portions of our K through 3 teacher salaries, and we use them for curriculum for literacy. What we receive, we have to spend, so we transfer if we plan to, like I said, split the salaries, and then if there's anything left at the end, we will transfer some additional over from our general fund to help make sure we fully utilize this fund. 243 is our CTE state allocation. Colby Matilla continues to assist with our annual application and the use of these dollars. I don't have the numbers for 24-25, so we budgeted our allocation from this current fiscal year to be safe, and it should be pretty close to that dollar amount. These funds are used specifically for supplies and materials for our CTE programs. CTE, career technical education program, and it's split between the high schools, what they can spend it on by their program. 245 is our state technology fund. This is also money that we receive directly from the state. Funds cannot be used for staffing, and this is where we typically spend money for network upgrades and Chromebook purchases for the classroom. It is a relatively low balance in there. We had anticipated, ending the year at 46,000. I'm showing 184,000, but that was because we actually received a lot more revenue from E-rate on our recent wireless access point purchase. We had only anticipated getting a 26% return on that, and we actually got a 60%.
Oh, wow.
So that helps us immensely.
Yeah, wow, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So we anticipate using a good chunk of that for, we have to do the other wireless access point for the rest of the buildings next year, and then Chromebooks as well. So I anticipate we'll have closer to 13,000 at the end of next fiscal year. Any questions on that one?
And the Chromebook purchases are replacement or new Chromebooks?
They're replacement. They're new Chromebooks that replace the ones that are being depreciated, I guess.
We're not adding.
Depleted. No. 246 Safe and Drug-Free Schools. This is again a grant that we received from the state. We utilize this mainly to help pay for our SRO contract with the city of Rathdrum. It's about $60,000. Again, we have to spend what we receive, so we don't anticipate to have any money left over in that at the end of the year. It covers all but 8,000 roughly of the contract with the city of Rathdrum. Any questions on that one? Next one is Fund 248. It's our miscellaneous grants. We always receive some miscellaneous grants. We have one teacher in particular that is a very prolific grant writer, so we always have something running through here. So we kind of plug all of those miscellaneous smaller grants into this one and track them in here. Examples include master grants, STEM grants, and we budget some in here for capacity, but again, this money is expected to go in and out. And if there's a balance carrying forward, it's just because it's crossing over the fiscal year.
Can we move back to
Yep.
the safe and drug-free school?
Absolutely.
Just because we're looking at budgeted numbers, but then when I pull up the financial for actual numbers,
It's overspent.
yeah, but yet we're carrying,
So we haven't completed the fiscal year yet. We will be moving those expenses into the general fund.
okay. So then for the fiscal year in 246, we're not going to be over? Is that what you're saying?
Right, so what
Okay.
happened was a couple of the SRO contracts were charged there and they shouldn't have been, and we didn't catch it right away. we got really late bills from Kootenai County Sheriff's Office this year.
Right.
So the majority of them were paid in the last couple months, and that's what pushed it over. And when we realized they were being charged there instead of to the general fund. So they're being transferred as we speak
Okay.
back into where they should be charged.
Okay.
Okay. Federal Title I, we had budgeted on what our initial allocation was. So Title I is our federal grant to ensure students who are most at risk meet state academic standards and reach proficiency on state assessments. We use these to fund our title program, our title teachers at the specific schools that qualify for title funding. Like I said, I budgeted this based on our initial allocation. However, since I had this prepared and posted the budget hearing, we actually received another $100,000 in funding, which is fantastic, but it's not reflected in here. So I do anticipate bringing you an amendment for that later in the fall next year after we kind of look at everything, just to make sure that we have everything in here correctly.
And can we use those, can we use funds from here for salaries or?
Yep, and that's the majority of what this is budgeted for, is salaries and some supplies. So salaries, benefits, and supplies for our title program. 257 is our IDEA, which is federal special education funding. So this is federal funds we receive for special education. We use everything that we receive here. As we all know, special education is kind of an unfunded mandate, so while this helps, the rest of it comes out of the general fund. I anticipate a small increase. Last year we had $825,000 budgeted, and we're at $913 this year. Okay. The next one is the special education preschool. Again, we budgeted somewhat flat on this. We don't have the official number on this, and we won't until later on this summer, but we budgeted flat. We pay a portion of our, a half FTE of a certified salary for our preschool teacher. And again, this will be completely spent because the rest comes out of the general fund. Next is Medicaid. The school districts provide some services to students that are eligible for Medicaid billing and reimbursement. Medicaid reimbursement revenues help pay for the cost of the special services. Again, whatever we receive in revenue, we charge out. So we'll do a transfer from the general fund from special education into this to basically wipe out the revenue, and it'll wash. Next one is 261, which is Title IV-A. It's a grant for student support and academic enrichment. We conduct a needs assessment annually to determine where we can best serve students. Currently, we're using this to do counselor wages.
We're using it for counselor wages?
Yes, so we actually transfer some, and it's not reflected in here because we didn't have the exact numbers, but we will actually transfer some of the Title II and Title IV money into Title I, so that we have more money in Title I to serve students. So we'll only use about $30,000 of the Title IV money for a counselor. You'll see that more accurately reflected in our current financials. That transfer, you'll see that it looks like Title I is super overspent, but it's really not because we're pulling in the revenue from Title II and Title IV, which we have permission from the federal government to do that, or from the state and the feds. Okay, next one is 263 federal CTE. This is Carl Perkins. We use this to fund about 25 to 27% of 2 instructors in CTE and some materials for the welding program that's split between the 2 high schools. This gets spent out every year. Next one is Federal Title II. We're utilizing this to cover student achievement by improving the quality and effectiveness of teachers, principals, and other school leaders. We pay for conference travel for our admins to the, Lisa, can you help me, which conference you guys go to?
The IASA.
The IASA conference. And then we also pay for a portion of our title consulting teacher out of here.
What was that last statement you said?
We also pay for a portion of our title consulting teacher.
Oh, okay.
We're almost to the end, guys. Fund 290 is child nutrition services. We operate our child nutrition program to provide breakfast and lunch at schools. Families who do not qualify for free and reduced meals will be responsible for meal costs. The state reduced the reimbursement rate in 23-24, resulting in less revenue for the program. I anticipate that reimbursement rate will stay the same this year, but since we no longer have the COVID waiver and we can't just feed everyone for free, we're definitely seeing a drop in utilization of nutrition services. It's not to say that it's not a valuable program, because it absolutely is. It's just we're not seeing it utilized as much as it was when everything was free.
Right.
So we anticipate ending the year at $264,000. It was, as I did inform the board, written into our contract that we do have an agreement to subsidize that $250,000. We have enough in our fund balance, our projected ending fund balance this year and next year to cover that. But we'll have to look at that going forward if we continue to eat into that.
Throughout COVID though, the board was at least presented with information that this particular fund was massively in the excess.
That's, we had to actually do, so one of the first things that I did when I started with the district, we had to come up with a spending plan because we had too much money. So that's where the steam tables were purchased for schools. We purchased another food service truck, and then there was another tilting kettles, and cafeteria tables. So all of that was purchased this year, which is why the fund balance went down so much, so that we're within the state parameters of what we can have for balance in that account.
Okay.
310 is our debt service. This is where our bond redemption fund accounts. It accounts for the property tax collections and debt payments for our active bonds. We have technically 2 payments left on our bonds, one this fall, one next fall. We have enough money in our account currently that we will no longer have a property tax for this, because we have enough in the account to pay off the bonds completely if we would choose to. So there will be no property taxes levied for the bond this year.
What happens to that ending fund balance after the final payment?
So, great question. I actually looked into this. My understanding is that we can transfer it to our plant facility levy fund and utilize it for capital purchases. 420 is our plant facility fund. We have another plant facility on the books for next year. We've talked at length about our plant facility levy and what we'd like to do with it. We have some outstanding projects that have not started yet, that will start this summer and end next summer. So that was the Lakeland Middle School gym floors, the bleachers, the painting of the walls, not the mural, just the painting of the walls interior. We had some miscellaneous projects here within the district. We're looking at doing the John Brown siding and potentially the district office siding and doors out of here. I have it in a form later on this evening, but we anticipate utilizing all of our plant facility fund next year. That's what I've budgeted. We have a large carry forward because we knew that we were wanting to do the John Brown siding project out of this funding. 421 is the board facility projects. This is where we transferred the money to do the site, or sorry, I said John Brown and District Office. Yep, that comes up next. So this is Apple and Spirit Lakes siding. Did I say that right? Apple and Spirit Lake siding this summer. They've already started purchasing, which is why I anticipated a little bit less than what you'll see tonight. They just sent us an invoice for $286,000 for the purchase of those materials. Those projects should be completed this summer, so this would be wrapped up and in theory spent out this summer. 422 is the board land reserve. This is where if we put donated funds for the district to use for purchasing of land in the future. There's no change in the balance because we didn't receive any additional funds last year. And finally, bus depreciation fund, 424. The state education budget provides limited funding for school bus purchases based on the district's existing bus fleet. The funding is calculated using a formula similar to methods that calculate depreciation. So funds are paid to the district's general fund, and at year end, a transfer is made from the general fund into the bus depreciation fund to account for the depreciation reimbursement. We actually do it at the beginning of the year because we know we have to do it anyway, so we just get it done and over with. So you'll see this transfer in July. We have a plan in place to replace 2 buses a year. This year, I believe we're moving forward with those 2. They have been ordered, they have not been received yet, so they'll come out of the fund next fiscal year, which is why I have a higher beginning balance than we had originally anticipated. So that is the proposed budget for the district for this next fiscal year. It is a balanced budget with some utilization of fund balance for general fund. Can I answer any questions?
Oh, thank you so much for all that, and especially the little explanation of everything.
Yeah,
Great.
that was
great.
great.
Yeah.
Narrative
love that.
description on the in the fund information. That's fantastic.
You like the format better?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
all great, yeah, it's beautiful.
Does anyone have any questions for Jessica?
I do not.
I don't. Nope. Okay, thank you.
I'm the next one on the agenda, so unless you would like me to sit down.
Based on my budget inquiry questions, because I did not attend the workshop or special meeting, whatnot, due to being out of town for work. I do want to clarify a few things, just because this was posted. When I asked about the 2 positions that were eliminated in 2022, what you're referencing are people that left in 2021. Those 2 people left in 2021.
At the end of 2021, we did not refill them. Instead of staying at the 5 that we had, we went down. We just stayed with the 3 that we have currently.
Okay.
That was one of the things the board had asked in my interview, was to reduce administrators, and so that's where we did it.
Okay. All right. So, in a sense, though, the positions are still there. They're just on another person.
No, they're not. We had 5 administrators here. We now only have 3, and we've just absorbed the duties that those other 2 people had.
Right. But what I said was the positions, not the person. So, like, Kelsey Badger is the federal programs director, which was what Patty Morrison was, and the special education.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, it's just
That's what it is.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Are we still anticipating having to cut the 4 PSCs?
Yes. And the people are still there,
But those positions.
but the positions are not, because when we sat down, I sat down with Brooke and just asked about the state funds 88 classified positions. We have 303, so I was really trying to understand where those positions are. So if you take special education out, all of the rest of our classified positions fit in that 88, roughly it's 90, but everything else is special education. So Kelsey's been looking at how do we trim back special education without impacting IEP services. So one of the things we looked at was the PSC positions that we did eliminate. Those people were actually only spending about 2 to 3 hours of their day doing PSC, and then the rest of their day was para work. So, what we did was we eliminated the PSC part, but we did let the case managers know that if they get into that time of year where they have several IEPs that are due, because it's very cyclical, and they need some time to do paperwork, we can provide a guest teacher for them. We will make sure that they're not having to do all that work on their own time. And we actually had several case managers who prefer to do their own IEPs anyway. So that was how we got to that decision.
Okay. And the positions that were added after, which weren't administrative, well, they're in the district office, but they're not. The social media and communication specialist and the test coordinator and tech integration specialist. Those positions significantly impact children more so than what we're cutting in special education.
I would tell you that the tech person, when we get to share our ISAT scores, did a significant amount of work with our teachers in looking at how to dig into the data to figure out where kids had discrepancies. She spent a lot of time in schools working with teachers. And then with regard to the media specialist, if the board approves the levy tonight, that position is critical to getting information out to the community. So.
Okay. So then the library aides aren't dealing with testing for the students? It's the tech person? Is that
The
accurate? Or they work
librarians in the two high schools are the testing coordinators for those schools.
Okay. But I'm talking about the library aides. We were told to coordinate student testing.
To my knowledge, it's the librarians who oversee that. They may assist with it, but it is the lead librarian who oversees the testing coordination.
Okay.
Your dates on these, Michelle, I just wanted to point out, use on number 2 under the administrator positions. You said that I believe this position was added in 2022 as the job description was approved on 10/12 of 2022. That would actually be 23. Because the fiscal years,
FY '23.
The
that
dates
would
I-
be for fiscal year 2023.
Okay, but the date I took was off of our board meeting, and it was on the December board meeting. So, because I went back to try and figure out, because things, when I was trying to figure out the 2022, because the people she was referencing, I remember being through the costliness of what transpired, and I didn't think it was 2022. I thought it was 2021. So I went back and I started just searching those things.
I'm just saying
So-
that that's the year that, the fiscal year that you're referencing by saying that the job description was approved on 10/12/2022, that is within fiscal year 2023. I just wanted to
Okay.
point that out, as is on number 3, when you said that the position, the job description was approved on 12/11/23, that's actually fiscal year 2024.
Okay.
So that's all I'm saying. That's why
Okay.
I just was pointing that out, that
No, and
it
I
may have
appreciate
confused
that.
things between the calendar year and the school year,
Okay.
because like we just are finishing up 24.
Right.
So this one that was
24 year.
right. So this one that was approved in December of 23 would be part of
This year.
This year that
This
we're
school
finishing up
fiscal
right now.
year, yes. Okay. I just, okay. And we're not going to have any VICs?
What we really all that we did was we had several classified staff who were all working with kids in different columns on the salary schedule, and so when we looked at that, it caused a lot of consternation among staff, because all of our teachers work with kids who have behavioral issues, all of our classified staff. And so to pay some more because of a title didn't necessarily make sense. So what we did basically was we just moved everybody back into the para column. And so the title Vic is gone, but those people who are highly trained, who work well with kids, they're still with us.
Okay.
And the principals do have latitude with regard to how to best utilize them.
Okay. So this was brought up because it was later on down in the discussion column, and I said we should move it up to the budget. It seemed to make a little bit more sense. So on that note, I will entertain a motion for the annual budget.
Move to approve the budget for 24-25.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay.
Nay.
That being said, the motion failed.
I think we're missing too many bodies, that's my only thing. I appreciate all the work and all that, but I feel like we gutted special ed, and I know the board's had heartburn over the special ed, but we can't help how many children we receive that need help. And then the libraries, and I know there's been discussion about that too, but we did receive emails from them. The board didn't get it to give any input on who should stay and maybe who should go, or how we could move things around. We were just brought an ABC list and we got to pick choices somebody else made for us. So that's my reason for not passing the budget. We just can't do that. We can't, I feel like we cannot cripple the special ed department. They're already understaffed, and the librarians. And our library, I mean, even just in the board meetings, how much work they do in reading the books and going through, and I just feel like we should have looked somewhere else, you know, or come up with something else, but I didn't get that opportunity.
Trustee Grissom, can I address the special education budget? We did actually budget a lot more money this year to make sure that we were matching what we were currently spending. We have a federal requirement that our maintenance of effort is that we spend exactly what we spent this year plus $1. So while it seems like there was cuts to special education, we're still budgeted to spend exactly what we spent this year. We're just truing up the budget numbers.
Well, what about, why did we have positions on there though that went away?
They didn't necessarily go away, they went back to the para column as Superintendent Arnold.
And there were some situations where we had other paras in the building who were leaving because the students were leaving. So we do have situations where we have one-on-one paras. And at Lakeland High School, we had a very large life skills class, and we had a lot of those kiddos graduated. So those jobs don't exist anymore. So the savings in special ed is really through that attrition and moving everybody back into a one para column. But we're not reducing the number of people, with the exception of for the kids who are no longer here. And I guess the other thing I just want to say about that whole budget process was, when we presented those ideas, we said these were ideas that we came up with. None of them were checked.
Right.
And if the board had other ideas, those could go up there, but they weren't, those didn't come
We
forward.
didn't have anything to make a decision on any other ideas, and when we talked about administrator, we weren't talking, I believe, if I remember right, the community has always voiced their perception that the district is too admin heavy at the school levels. But we never got to look at any of those numbers, and we did get emails from the library staff and the special ed staff, and I have to agree with them. I mean, I just don't see how we can say that those positions, and I understand that so in special ed some of the kids are gone or they've moved or what have you, but we should always try and cut where it doesn't affect the kids. And I think there's probably other places. I think.
We had the opportunities to ask the questions of what things cost, and Lisa and Jessica brought suggestions, but they were very clear that if we had other ideas, throw them out there. And it's frustrating for me to hear you say that we were just told what cuts needed to be made. No, they gave us some options, and we went through the list and talked about those different items. If there were other items, we've had almost a month now to go back and look at other options and to suggest other options, so it's,
Well, I'm just concerned for the special ed and the libraries, I guess I should say, because that position already took a huge cut with the prior administrator. We didn't even have an actual librarian in the district. You know, that went away, and now I'm just concerned that we keep, you know, picking away at these other things. But you say the people are still here, and they're just I'm confused on that. The people are still here, and they're still gonna do the same work, but we're not gonna pay them for that? I don't understand how.
Well, what was happening was we had lots of people who were in the para column who were doing the same work as the people in the big column, working with kids who have challenging behaviors, but there was a pay differential, but we couldn't really justify that we continued doing that. So everybody works with all of our kids, and so we just moved them back into the para position.
We did add almost $600,000 to the special education budget for this upcoming fiscal year. It's $585,000 more, based on the current year spending, because we overspent our budget this year.
Yeah, and then we have the 100,000 that for the one title that we weren't accounting for either.
One of the things we looked at with regard to the libraries is the amount of checking out of books, and at the high school levels it was significantly less than what we do at an elementary school, for example. And we have one librarian at each elementary, so that was part of the decision making, or at least the suggestion.
Well, with the $500,000 for Chromebooks, when I brought that up, it wasn't that I was stating we're getting rid of Chromebooks. My point in bringing it up is it may be more beneficial to either one, decrease the amount, or do an every other year type of thing. We have no idea how many Chromebooks are being replaced on an annual basis. And if that $500,000, respecting it, can't go to salaries, but if it can go to the other expenses within that tech bracket, it would seem more reasonable for it to be applied that way, as opposed to taking the money from the general fund and putting it towards something else in that bracket. But that wasn't even a consideration in the response. I feel like you felt like my statement was we're getting rid of Chromebooks, when that wasn't it. I was just asking why there wasn't a reduction for the Chromebooks, because this board has talked multiple times about the fact that why are we spending $500,000 plus every year on these Chromebooks? And first it was, well, the prior board approved it. Then it was, oh well, it's just part of the maintenance schedule. And then it was, well, if you guys don't want to do it, then you can let us know. So that was why I brought it up, not necessarily saying you're abandoning Chromebooks, going back to pen and paper when children are expected to test on the Chromebooks. As it is, maybe this year that could be we could forego it and apply that $500,000 somewhere else under that umbrella. I don't know. It was a question, which doesn't seem to have been entertained, other than nope, we're buying the Chromebooks. Which wasn't my intention in bringing it up. So when all the school budgets bumped up to 10% from the 5% based on Bob's suggestion, how much did the general fund gain from that?
I believe it was $18,000.
Okay.
My question is this. So the law, and I don't know if I'm on the right law, but it says the school board shall do the budget.
That's what we.
No, but the trustees, not. But, like I asked Jessica this, and she said, well, we hire her to do the budget. But it doesn't say that in here. It just says the board does the budget.
It's
The board, says the clerk, or,
Our board policy says that we have a CSO that does put together the budget, but that is her responsibility, is to put together the budget and present it to the board. So our board, the state law doesn't say it, it says that we are responsible for the budget, that is absolutely correct. But our board policy says that we hire a superintendent and a CFO that put together the budget and present it to us, and we can make changes to that, and it's still our budget, it's still our adoption responsibility. That's what we're here doing tonight. But they bring us the numbers
Right.
and present.
So
And
that's,
we had several workshops with the board where we talked about what was important, what we
Right.
want. And then we had that meeting where we just basically brought you a whole list of things to consider, and you made those decisions. And then at the end of that, there was a vote, and that those decisions were approved, which is what Jessica built into the budget.
right.
So what is problematic, and I guess a little bit frustrating, is the fact that we went through that process, the board did approve what was up there, and that's the work that Jessica did, and now we're not approving it, and without really any notification. That was gonna be a problem, so.
I'm inclined to agree with that. It's frustrating too. How many workshops did we have? 3?
4.
4
and a
workshops
special meeting.
before tonight. All on the notion that the board needs to be more involved in the budget-making process. And unless I was out to lunch somewhere, I thought that's what we were doing in those workshops. And yet, here we are, we can't approve the budget that we worked on for 4 different sessions. I don't understand.
So who's taking all of the responsibility of the library aides then at the two libraries? At, the high schools, is that where they were?
Mhm.
Yeah, Lakewood and Timberlake?
Yep, the full-time librarians.
So the librarians are gonna do all of that work also that the aides were doing?
Are there any amendments that I can make to the budget tonight so that we could move forward with adoption?
I'm just concerned, like I said, again, when it comes to, the libraries and the special ed, that would be, you know, if there's no funds in there, how are we gonna support these kids? I mean, we have to do it.
We did add funds, so Trustee Grissom, we added $600,000 to special ed. So there are definitely funds in there for that work to be done.
Then why can't we pay the people to do it, I guess is
So
right.
in some of those instances for those people, we did move them over, but we moved them over to make at least what they were making this year. So their wages didn't go down, they just moved into a different column.
Not according to some of the emails I've received. Wages have gone down. People are expected to take a cut in pay, and still do the job, which doesn't make sense. I mean, I feel like we took a very bottom-up approach instead of a top-down approach, which would, I think, have been more validating to the people that are on the ground doing the work, with the students day in and day out. But, you know, I did ask questions. They couldn't be answered until a meeting. We adjourned at the last meeting early, so I apologize if you all feel like I'm being unfair.
Per Idaho State Statute 33801, we have 14 days from tonight to get a budget adopted. So we would have to have a special meeting within the next 14 days to adopt a budget in order to be in compliance with Idaho State law. amendments you would like me to make to represent, I would love to have them.
Well, my amendments would be to put all the positions back. That would be my amendment.
In doing so, the board will have to do a special resolution in order to acknowledge that we're gonna go below the 8% that we've prescribed for fund balance.
But you just said that we had all the funds. The funds were put back in there, so the funds are
Right,
either
we're
there
still,
or they're
there's,
not there.
well, there's the 600,000 that's already in there for special ed. If you're wanting to reinstate the other positions, there is going to be an increased cost.
So how much did we add into special education?
600,000 or $585,149.
Okay. But the PSC positions and the BIC positions, I don't remember the RBIS position amounts. It wasn't $600,000.
Right. What I did was budget to what we spent this year because of that maintenance of effort requirement that we have. Those positions were absorbed into the para column. So, and like Superintendent Arnold said, we do have some that are leaving. We have an interpreter that's no longer needed because the student graduated. So we have some cost savings that help balance out everything. But yes, we did budget more, 600,000 more for special education so that we can meet the maintenance of effort requirements that we're required to have by the federal law. So the money is there. But with every other fluctuation that we had, we were able to have some savings by moving everybody into the same column.
Yeah. I don't want to burden that department anymore. They're already overburdened. They already have a huge workload. You know, whether, you know, some people agree, disagree, whatever. They already have tons of work to do. And I don't want people to.
I presume the board recalls that we got into this process originally because we had $1 million shortfall. Something had to give, albeit the list that was provided to us for some alternatives of things that we could choose in order to bring the budget together in a balanced form. We have to have a balanced budget by law.
Right. Yeah, of course.
So it's a simple matter. If you want to add expenditures, something has to go away in
Yeah.
order to keep the budget.
I want
balanced.
to keep. I don't want to add. I want to keep. I think we need to find somewhere else to cut, and I can't tell you where that is, but I don't think we start in the classroom. I think we cut somewhere else. You know, we have no problem adding an additional 20 grand to pay increases for the directors we're being asked to hire. That was just a rollover on a piece of paper. You know, do we really have to do that? Why didn't we stay paid? You know, if we're that hurt, because here's the other thing. Now we're gonna have to go to the community. Nobody else in this whole state, and I don't think, has passed a levy. And now we're gonna go to the community and have to ask for the levy too. I think we need to cut somewhere else, not in the classroom or the library, especially with everything they do. I just can't see how the one person in a library is going to do this entire list. One school servicing 880 students and the other school servicing over 500 students, one person.
Is there any way that $500,000 could offset expenses so that that frees up money that can go in a different direction?
We don't have a lot of money budgeted for IT other than salaries in the general fund. Because everything really flows through either the plant facility levy at this point or through that state technology fund. We really are very, very minimal in the general fund for anything but salaries related to IT.
Right, but what I'm saying is, so, let me pull up here. So I guess what I'm trying to say is in the general fund, are there supplies and materials that could equate to $565,000 that is budgeted here? We don't have $565,000
It has to be
that could go over there.
It has to be technology specifically, so those supplies and consumables, unless they are a
Well, it says
software.
instructional related to tech. So, I mean, every month we see 10,000 or more on the bills that are some app or some type of program along those lines. So that's what I'm asking.
A lot of that is curriculum.
Okay. It couldn't be considered purchased services because we have to buy them?
Not for tech, no, it's
Okay.
curriculum.
All right.
I just feel like every time we come up with an idea, we're met with, well, we can't do that. We can't do that. Like I've suggested, right now curriculum, nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to think outside the box. I mean, we got, like the bus thing, which drives me crazy. Well, we get reimbursed by the state, but where do you think the state gets the money? They get it from the taxpayer. So, like she said, we're having a levy come up, and if the public doesn't see us trying to save money in other areas, it doesn't matter where we're saving money, but we're trying to save money, they're gonna be more apt to vote in a levy. But if we just keep going down the same road, and next year, I mean, they're closing schools all over Idaho right now. And we gotta start getting ready for that. We're gonna have to close the school, if the enrollment keeps dropping, we don't have the funds, we're gonna have to close the school.
If we don't pass the levy next year, that's a fifth of our budget. So, yes, that would be our reality.
Yeah. I'm just seeing what's happening all over the state, and it's like, let's try to think it outside the box, I mean, I don't know. Just like, we're just running in circles.
This budget does reflect up to $2 million that we cut.
Well, let's get rid of Chromebooks. You say we need them for testing, make a frickin' testing lab in the library. That's where we used to have it. Send the kids in there, do their test. We don't need $500,000 worth of Chromebooks every year.
That money comes directly from the state for that purchase.
I know, but it's taxpayer funded. Everything's taxpayer funded. It's not free.
Nobody's saying
Everything
it's
is.
free.
I know, but it's taxpayers are paying every year. I just got my thing for my property. It went up again. And everybody in this district's feeling the same thing. We all pay taxes. And it keeps going up, and it keeps going up.
And with House Bill 291 with the property tax relief, it actually should go down this year for everybody in the district because of the amount of money we should receive from the state to offset our levy. We levied this year, we had $936,000 that was wiped off of that. We received $1.75 million from the state to have property tax relief. And nobody in this district paid for the bond because that came from state revenue. And then our supplemental revenue, our supplemental levy, we're receiving less revenue from that because we received the rest of that 1.7 went against our supplemental. So we won't tax our community that full 9.5 million.
I understand
and it won't
that.
happen again this year because of the money that we're receiving from the state for property tax relief.
I get that, but I bought my house for $348,000. It's now $1.5 million. Okay? It's going up. It's gonna go up. I know. That's what I'm saying. Everything's going up. People are getting taxed more.
But we receive a specific allocation from the state of Idaho specific to technology, and that is to purchase hardware and Chromebooks.
Right. Well, you don't have to buy Chromebooks, though. You could buy.
I could buy laptops, but I
No, I'm
would still
saying
have
you
to
could-
buy some sort of IT technology.
Yeah.
But every kid doesn't need a Chromebook either. And did they initially do that for every kid could have a Chromebook?
Well, that was
the plan.
COVID, and part of the 500,000 wasn't in Chromebooks, it was spent, it wasn't Chromebooks, it was, the initial one was, all of the admin staff and somebody else got, iPads and other Apple computers a few years ago.
Yeah.
But she's right, the money that comes in as technology has to go to technology. So where can we get the money to get the 2 library aides back?
If you-
We can't operate those 2 schools with 1 person servicing 500 and 800.
The cost related to them was $49,005. If we took that out of fund balance, that would put us at 8.04% fund balance, which is above the threshold by 0.04%. However, if any of these projections come in off, we may end up below 8% if we end up spending more next year. But yes, you could put them.
Which is our policy, which can be changed. That was
Right.
only implemented a couple years ago. We would still be well under the percentage in the state statute.
Which is 5%, yes.
Yeah.
So
Um,
we could
or
take it out,
over.
yes,
Yeah.
we could take it out of fund balance if that was
I was like, what?
at the board's discretion. That is something we absolutely could do.
I want at least you're telling me the same bodies are there for the PSCs.
And the mix.
Yeah, I don't want, I'm tired of special ed being overworked. That's why we can't hire teachers. Nobody can hire teachers because everything they have to do by federal, state, whomever, is more. It's too much, and we can't help it that our population of children with behaviors or other issues is skyrocketing. I mean, it's that way everywhere, and the reason we can't keep teachers and we can't hire them is because there's too much on their plate. They can't make the demand, and they feel like they can't, and the other people that help, the other paras that help them, the same thing. You know, and I know it's a lot of money, but I don't know what else to do. All I know is I see bodies, everybody puts forth the best effort that they can, and I just can't see cutting in those things when we know it's just gonna get worse. It just keeps growing. I mean, in the last 10 years, you know, even the diagnosis rates have went up. But I would like to, if the board would entertain a motion, I would entertain or put out a motion to adopt the budget with the understanding that the 2 library positions will be reinstated if the board feels that the 49,000 out of
I'll second. Any further discussion on this from anyone? Right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to reports, we have the monthly financial report. Are there any questions, comments, or conversations that need to be had on the financial report? Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have the minutes from the previous meetings, the minutes of subcommittee meetings to be accepted, HR items, regular and special bills. Does anyone have any comments or questions on the previous meeting minutes?
No, but they are so much better to read nowadays. I used to fret, I open it, it's like, oh, it's so easy to get through.
Yes.
Can we please have the public comments that were collected added to the 5/8 meeting minutes?
Thank you for catching that.
Any comments or questions on the minutes of subcommittee meetings to be accepted? comments or questions on the HR items? Any comments, questions, or topic of conversation for the regular or special bills?
No, I didn't have any.
I'm good.
Okay. On that note, I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to old business, we have the superintendent follow-up for June. I would like to note that I also, Lisa had forwarded the board Megan's response, but not knowing exactly what Lisa had asked Megan, I went ahead and asked her where my struggle was. And statute 33-1279, Megan does say she misspoke, that's not the correct statute for what I wanted asked. And it is something that we can probably go back to the table with next year, with regard to having to pay teachers and substitutes and all of that for attending association, state association events. So there's nothing to do now because the negotiated agreement was passed, but Megan did respond today. She was sick. Any other conversation on the superintendent follow-up?
No, I do not.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to the financial follow-up, is there any conversation, questions, or concerns?
Nope, I'm good.
So though the board has not approved doing the citing for John Brown and the district office, we're still moving forward with that?
We haven't started anything.
Well, it's in the budget, so that's why I was just curious. We did an RFQ, it's on here, and it's in the preliminary budget for 2025.
That was based on the conversation we had at the workshop that we did earlier, but we're gonna request another workshop so that the board can finalize how you want to spend that money.
Okay. Facility updates, any comments or questions on here?
No, that's a big chunk of property that sits there.
It is, it's, I call it a nuisance property. The city's been great. I work-
Introduce yourself.
Oh, Mike Carriel, Facilities
Thank you.
Director. For years, I've been working with the city. They kind of like keep tabs on it too with me. And I met with a neighbor over concerns of the dead standing trees and vegetation. And so I'm just kind of putting it out there. The neighbor is really, really laid back and he isn't expecting anything to happen immediately. But it would be a sizable job to remove all the timber and cut all the underbrush and you know, I don't
It's all
disagree
rocks and
with
trees.
right, yeah, and it's been a problem with, you know, homeless encampments. We kept all of our bark chips back there for years. There'd be needles. These are bark chips that go to playgrounds, right? So we're no longer gonna do that. It's just very hard to keep tabs on. It's not fenced
Right.
on that backside by the furniture doctor. So his concerns lie with fire, and I don't disagree. I mean, it is a fuel-filled chunk of property. So I think moving forward, it might be something that we look at, you know, to be a good neighbor and eliminate possible issues. So that's all that was.
At least clean it up.
Right, right.
Something we
yeah.
could, is that something we could work with the
KTAC?
county and split the
Possibly, yeah.
Split the property
Sure.
and sell off the nuisance land?
Well, it's
It's
I
not
would
something
love.
we could use it for.
No, I would love to get it off of our plate. It's an odd chunk of property with all the rock and things there. I don't know what a person would do with it. The neighbor that I talked to expressed interest. He would love to own it. So maybe other neighbors bordering it would be in the same boat. I don't know. You know, that to me makes the most sense. Because to build on it, I mean, geez, the money would be involved to bust all that rock out of there to make it, you know, usable would be huge. Not to mention, I mean, it's used as like an ORV park too. I mean, I worry about somebody getting hurt back there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then coming back, you know, and somehow or another putting us on the line for that. I just, you know, it's a little bit of a headache. So I just wanted the board to be aware of that and be aware of the patron I talked to. And again, very nice gentleman. And I just said I would get the conversation started. But again, he's not looking for any immediate anything. It's just information for you. So, and I did attach a ballpark figure from a tree guy. You know, what it would cost to remove, you know, burn the brush, all that stuff. And you know, it could be less than that. It was hard for him to kind of.
How many acres is it?
Total acreage of the property is a little over 13 with Mountain View and food service. That small chunk right there, probably about half that.
That's 7.
Yeah. So, anyway,
All right.
just information.
It's really weird shaped though too. I looked on the map and it's like,
It is very
It's
odd.
really-
very odd.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could get like, the state services like Firewise or
Mhm.
somebody like that.
Sure.
Smart,
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, also, I mean, they help everybody else, all these guys that get tickets and have to do the sheriff's work program,
Yeah.
maybe they
Yeah.
should. I mean, they help with the dump, the dog,
Yeah.
the Humane Society, I mean, maybe they could help here.
Yeah, well, there's definitely options, and I will pursue all those, but I just wanted you guys to have the information, only because I was approached by, you know, a neighbor.
Right.
So,
Thank you for
yeah.
bringing that to
Yeah.
Thank you.
You get the Lions Club over there and clear it. And
They could
they
take the
give
wood.
They give away the fireworks.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was,
Yeah,
that was
that's-
actually brought up, so yeah, that would be totally
really
on
good
board with
plan,
that.
Probably a lot of,
temporary,
yeah.
good
free-
plan for
At
now.
least get it, like you're saying, so it doesn't hide.
Mm-hmm. Well, the wood could be used immediately because it's dead standing. It's already, I mean,
Yeah.
it just needs to come down, so there's no, you know, curing or anything. They can cut it down and use it immediately,
Mhm.
you know,
Risk out
so.
of the sky,
mhm.
yeah.
So.
Well, thank you. Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
Moving on to new business, we have the certified administrative staff contracts. We have administrator contracts. And certified contracts. Open it up for discussion and conversation.
How come some people get 0 raises? And then some are at 1.
Because the board approved steps on the salary matrices, so if you're at the bottom step, there is no step.
Okay. And why is there, so is that automatic 2, why do 2 people have 2%?
Because the way that that matrix was put together under the previous administration, we can't figure out what the mathematical pieces are it should be all equal, and it obviously is not, and so we just tonight we're having that conversation that needs to be adjusted, but we will do that next year and bring that to the board so that there is some equity there. We're not sure how they picked the numbers. It's the same way on the classified matrix. There's not consistency.
some of the cells red on the certified? Very end.
Cells red. Oh, Brooke Cunningham, the Director of HR. I'm sorry, those contracts that have not, those shouldn't have been on there.
Oh.
Those are not, have not been rehired.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Any further conversation, discussion, whatnot on the returning certified staff and administrative contracts?
No, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Bob looks like he's thinking. Comment, Bob.
I would like to amend the motion to include 1% for the superintendent.
Okay. Are you in favor of that motion amendment?
Yeah.
Alright, are you still seconding?
I'll approve it if they move the 2 administrators down to 1%.
Now we're negotiating.
Yeah. Well, geez, this seems fair.
I understand that. So to recap the motion, would you like a second amendment on that motion?
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm okay with that. So therefore, then the motion on the table would be to approve the matrices with a reduction on the top 2 administrators from 2% to 1%, and providing the superintendent a 1% increase.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm abstaining, so 4 in favor, 1 abstain. Move on to the returning directors. So, does anybody have any questions, comments, or conversation on the classified administrator salary matrix?
I don't think so, I think it's just the regular 2% increase across the board, is that what this is?
I believe it's 1%.
I don't know if those steps are 2%.
Okay.
They're
Just
1%.
One.
I went through and figured it out. Cause I'm like, what are they increasing? It is it's
Okay.
around 1% mark.
Oh yeah, so this is the leftover that from the, I get it now, I see that. Don't have any questions, but we did list, somebody as treasurer on there, who's not treasurer.
Oh, that is correct.
So I would move to approve the matrices with that one correction.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next item is stipends. These are mentor stipends. Any comments or questions on the stipends?
I wonder why we have stipends for doing your job.
those are the ones that we're required to have for the new teachers and new,
They're required.
Yep.
yeah, by state statute. We have to have,
Do you have to pay them though?
well, do you work for free?
No, but that's during your work day, so you're working,
But
you're
this
still getting paid.
isn't, but this is another responsibility of mentoring. We have to have them, so whether we're paying
I
them
understand that.
this stipend or we hire somebody to do it.
I'm just saying, it says additional duties as assigned in your contract.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So we just tell them. Yeah.
Do you have a question, Bob?
I asked about John Keating.
Oh, okay, okay. And
These
what
are
was-
for this current year, these are being paid for the mentoring that they did during this school year that they just finished up.
Okay.
Last year, we approved them before, and then we found out some people didn't do the mentoring that they were
Right.
supposed to do. So these are coming a little bit later this year than they did last year, so that we made sure that those were all done.
We also
Correctly.
beefed up the accountability side of that. So as part of their final evaluation with the principal, they had to present to the principal. We had a monthly checklist of activities that they needed to do with their protege, observations that they needed to do with them so that they could sit and calibrate and talk about instruction. And I have those are all documented, and I have them all in a folder. So there were tasks each month that they were.
How do we
required.
decide, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was gonna say, how do we decide who is going to be the mentor? Like, what is it something you guys just come up with? Do you have like, here's the requirements? I'm curious.
The principals look at who they have in the building. Sometimes, if it's for example, if it's a new special education teacher, they might have two mentors. They might have a special education teacher who is in a different building because the state does expect that we're going to have veteran teachers who are masters at their craft. And if you have if your partner in that building is also brand new, that can't be. They can't mentor you in the special ed realm. So sometimes in those types of positions, or if we have like a PE teacher who's new in one building and they're the only PE teacher in the building, we pair them sometimes with somebody outside. So it just is, it's a conversation about what, it's really important principles that there's a mentor in the building to help with all of the building specific kinds of things. And so, but that's
It's up to them, whatever the need is and whoever's got you.
yeah. So, but and then that all runs through Dr. Pasley. So if she has any concerns about a mentor who's identified, she'll have a conversation with the principal.
Gotcha. I move that we approve mentor stipends as submitted.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to policies. There's not much that I can speak to on these because I was not at policy committee due to work obligations. So, which were you at all, Libby? I don't know who was there, so.
Dr. Pasley and I were there. We spent a lot of time on the library materials, selection of library materials, and then the procedure for that. Dr. Pasley did a lot of work looking at the new library law and making sure that our policy and procedure in particular match the language in the law.
I do know that the library materials did come before the board prior, but it was asked to be tabled because the librarians were having a meeting with someone to help them understand better the expectations of the law. So it's coming back. This isn't the first time we've seen it. There were some minor changes.
We just met with them and then they gave us some additional feedback, so it was pretty minor. This is
pretty much what you guys saw the first time around.
The special services policy, that's a policy that we didn't have, that we're required to have, and was a finding for us, special education. And then the last four are policies that our CFO reviewed and then submitted. So the policy committee didn't work on those four.
Okay. So I am curious on policy 7430, the blue language that's in there. Is that from ISBA given? Okay.
Justin Wright, Chief Finance Officer.
Sorry,
Yes, the blue language was ISB language.
And there was something in one of the policies, I think it's, let me find it. It's right. In the in-district expenses, we're doing a pre-approved expense, which in my mindset means that it has to be approved before it's actually accomplished, and then it's done. Is that reasonable for in-district expense travel?
If they are participating in some sort of professional development, or they're in a full day meeting somewhere in the district, at any time whether they're in district or out of district, they submit a professional leave form, and they'll identify on there, this is how much mileage there will be, these are the meals that I will be eating in the per diem, and because it's in district, those are the only two things really that, other than if there were some sort of a cost.
Okay, so they prepare for it before they go?
Correct.
Instead of just saying, I'm going to this conference, they go and then come back and get reimbursed?
Correct.
Okay, that's interesting. Alrighty.
It just, it allows us to track our professional development dollars, and know how much we're spending each time.
Okay. I guess I was thinking more like if people are having to travel in between schools.
Oh, that's not considered, that's not this.
That's not this. Okay. Alright. Is that not travel? Going from school A
yeah,
to
that's-
school B?
That's,
We typically do mileage for that.
right, there's a separate mileage form if you're just traveling from, and we have staff who, like our nurses who travel between schools, who will fill out a mileage form. And so it's a different form than, this is truly,
PD kind of.
Right, but it says actual mileage driven for pre-approved travel between buildings and meeting sites shall be reimbursed. So again, there's that whole pre-approval, so if someone doesn't know that they have to go from building A to building B, but they go, I mean, that's not pre-approved, that's just they're doing their job. So, or is it
Do
just
we
the
have-
assumption that it's pre-approved because they're doing their job?
right,
Okay.
yes.
Do we have another policy that outlines that reimbursement for the mileage reimbursement? Just so that it's not being confused with this, like, oh, I thought I was supposed to do it this way, but then is there somewhere where we have clarification between the two different types of travel?
We definitely identify at the beginning of the year our what we call itinerant staff who move around from building to building and would need to fill out a mileage form, so that, I guess in essence, is the pre-approved part, because
Okay.
we know that's
Okay.
happening.
It's front loaded through their directors of this is the job requirement, so they know what they're doing and then who they have to submit it to
Okay.
on a regular basis.
Do we need to have any other conversation on these policies?
I just had a quick question. At the bottom of 2,500 of the library materials, it said, where'd it go? In the cross-reference portion, it says 2520. Selection, adoption, and reading of curricular materials.
So
That's
that
the
was some
title.
of the language that was changed, so this has not
Okay.
come in front of the board yet, this part is gonna be a little bit confusing. So, ISBA came out and they combined 2520 and 2540. So when we first got it, because 2540 was pretty small, so they just put it into one. Then part of, and we've been meeting on that policy, well, all of the library policies for several months now. In that, we recognized, again, if we go back to when we originally started looking at policy, trying to have them all be singular and in alignment, we felt like there was a lot of overlapping. So there was discussion about even condensing that more into 2520. So we will have to change this if the board approves that condensing, because then we will only have 2520, we won't have a 2530 or a 2540. Does that make sense? But we left it, and I think Michelle is the one that highlighted this, Board Chair Thompson, because it will depend on if the board goes with that recommendation or not of all that combining. But there was a lot of overlapping language between the three.
Well, it's highlighted because when we were looking at 2530, no one could define learning materials beyond supplemental. So
Okay.
we retitled it supplemental, but that
Okay.
may be going back, I don't know.
Right, okay.
So it's just sort of a.
That's still up in the air, so, but it would be just down to one.
The word weeding,
Weeding was
yeah,
the one.
that's an ISBA word, and I asked the same thing.
Because ours isn't called that, like,
I don't
really, that's the best word we
Was it
have.
I don't think it was an
No,
ISBA. I
the-
think we, like, people
the
struggled
librarians.
with the language.
Oh, you're
so
right, it was
It came, it was like
deselection.
deselection,
Yeah,
and
it
so
was
people were like, we're truly weeding it out, and so that, there was a lot of laughter about wordsmithing and trying to figure a
Okay.
better word, but we
Right.
couldn't find a better word, so,
It gets the point across.
Yeah.
I think
We all
that's
kinda
exactly
know
what
what it
somebody
means.
said,
It's like-
so that was really us, if there's a better word to use, but
I
it
just
felt
was-
like it was really clear at that point, but there was lots of discussion about semantics at that point and wordsmithing.
So this 2520, or 2500 in essence combines, we just have to go back and combine them into one and call it good.
If the board goes
Yeah.
that route, yeah.
Gotcha. That was the only question, was the weeding. I was like, do you mean reading or
It's
is
not
she
really
weeding?
a technical curriculum word, but it got
It's
to the
very
point.
high tech. I mean,
Yes,
We pondered it quite a lot.
with lots of laughter.
Any other conversation, discussion on these policies?
No, I would move to approve the policies as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The entire laundry list.
The entire laundry list. Yes.
Just wanted to clarify.
Are you eyeing?
I'm eyeing.
Okay.
Right with my eye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries, which I don't know if my eye came out because I was caught off by Bob, but everybody said yes. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the supplemental curriculum.
So one question I have is, we are doing the Google survey. There was comment last time about you guys liked the original form. Does this still work for you to be able to see the Google form, the survey, and then putting in this format? This seems easier to me for you guys to dissect the information, but is it cumbersome with 3 links?
I prefer the old form, absolutely. The spreadsheet is very
It's not
overwhelming.
user-friendly, right?
No, it's very overwhelming. And I do appreciate all the time and effort that's put into making it something that we can digest easily. Would you like to have any conversation on the supplemental curriculum?
Can I just add a point of clarification just based on a few of the comments?
Yeah.
So the writing bundles, the idea, there was a few comments in there about it just seems like a lot of writing. The idea is that we have so many K-1 teachers looping, and so having some advanced opportunities for if you have beginning writers versus more advanced writers in that continuum with our looping, having teachers have options. They're not doing all of this and having the kids do all of this writing. It really is about options. It's a lot of graphic organizers. It's a lot of like different writing prompts so the teachers have stuff to pull from for that differentiation piece. So by no means would every K-1 teacher do all three of these or even one of these to fidelity. The idea is that it gives them some flexibility because especially at kinder, you will have kids come in that can write paragraphs, are writing full sentences, and then you have some that are still digesting how to write their name and even write their letters and letter formation. So those two grades, it's really crucial that they have a significant amount of flexibility with writing because that growth is significant, especially in our looping classes. So, so just to add that clarifying piece.
I don't have any questions.
Nope, I'm good. Any other comments or input? No. Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
To approve the supplemental, June supplemental curriculum as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, moving on to the middle school parent player handbooks. When this came to be, during agenda planning, I thought this was what we had just approved, which was the high school books. So this is the middle school book. I'm like, oh yeah, the M gives it away. Can director, I have a question for director, assistant superintendent Basley. Too many cards have gone way out.
Dr. Basley, board check motion.
Sorry.
That's
I was
okay.
trying to get Amber the chair.
No, that's okay. On the Timberlake Middle School, there's comments off to the side. Have those been resolved? I guess one was to you, one was to Jessica. I just want to make sure that with respect to the comments and where they're highlighted within the document that there's no significant changes.
I believe they all have.
Okay.
I believe they all have been resolved.
Okay.
We had lots of discussion about, is the middle school governed the same as the high school? And it's not technically, but we wanted there to be really some continuity between, so that the parents were having, when they start sports, there's lots of, we looked at other programs instead of what big teams, and so our whole goal this year was really of just having it be kind of a vertical alignment like we do with curriculum, just with sports, and so having conversations about what looks like, what's competitive looks like. Are we cutting teams? What does that look like? What does our coaching look like? Do we have a handbook? What are we expecting parents to do? So we tried to put everything in alignment to the best of our ability with what the high school is doing, so that parents we're just building on those programs.
Okay.
So it doesn't feel really mismatched or disconnected.
It's intentional.
That's a better word.
What's the answer to the question regarding the physicals?
They're just doing one during their time in middle school instead of every other year like you have to do at the high school. And then there's that interim questionnaire consent form that they fill out every year.
Every
So
year.
if there's any change in medical, then the school can ask that they do the physical, just so we know that the student is able to play safely. IHSA obviously doesn't govern middle school, so that was the recommendation from the activities directors at those two schools.
And we only do it twice at the high school. Freshman year and junior year. Unless there's an issue, obviously.
Any other questions?
Yeah, do we print this and hand it to parents and players also, because some might not have internet
My
availability?
understanding
or-
is yes, but if we don't, we can make sure that happens. The idea is that they have it digitally, and then I do know they bring in all the parents, just like we do at the high school level, and there's a meeting and they talk about it. Parents can kind of go through it. Jason, anything you can add to that? Is that they print
Yeah,
it?
if they don't have internet access, they can either come into the school and do it usually, or we can provide them the paperwork to send them.
But because we're starting this now, you know, we can build those protocols now if there's things that you would like, because we literally just wrote it this year. So I think they've informally done some of that, but in my mind, that would be part of the protocol, is having that kind of, just like we do at the high school, there's a meeting, there's a discussion, so everybody's really clear about the expectations.
I'm just thinking that the availability of the link to the form, that the form should be with
Right.
the hard copy, and then the link should be, that goes to the fan page or
Right.
whatever, should be written out so that if it is a hard copy, they know where to go to find it, right? Because the link doesn't do them any good in hard copy.
And then if they're registering via big teams, it's nice if somebody needs help with that we're available to support
And some
them.
people just like a hard copy, just with scratch notes on
Right.
or
I'm a hard
refer
copy
to,
person,
or
so I get it.
Yeah.
Totally.
that was, I mean, it's great work. I think I love seeing all the consolidation and continuity being across the district, to see it all. I'm like, yes.
And this is really Frankie and Randy Boyd. I mean, this was their brainchild. They did all of this work.
That's great.
So we met multiple times this year. We had several people involved, but this is really none of us can take the credit for it. They did a great job of putting all this together.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I would move to approve the middle school parent-player handbooks as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Sorry you had to wait for me to be really sure.
Moving on to the female wrestling program.
So Timberlake High School has I think it's a singular female wrestler. Yes. And they are looking to grow that program, and the process that we've used in our district in the past is that we have a kind of a volunteer coach who heads that up and helps grow the program. And so that's the intention here, and the board already approves our, the volunteer coaches, So this is just more about giving permission to be really intentional about growing this program at Timberlake High School. We have it started at Lakeland High School. Mr. Quimby works with those girls. So this person may reach out and want to collaborate with Lakeland to just kind of pick their brain and figure out what they've done to get the girls interested. But this is just looking for permission from the board to move in that direction.
Well, permission from the board just to hire the gentleman, not approve the program, or is it both?
That's a good question. I think, Brooke, can you help me out?
Well, the recommendation is just to
Yes.
hire him
He's already a coach.
approve.
Yeah, he's a
Work
coach.
to begin building.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay.
So the reason I worded it that way, and I actually have continued to work on this since I submitted it to the clerk, is what I didn't know was whether or not we could have a volunteer coach be the head coach and travel when they're not our employee. That was my question, that was my concern, which is why I brought it this way. However, in doing my research, that's been kind of our precedent and how we've done it. So I would modify my recommendation to, I'm asking for the board to approve the moving forward with the female, focusing on that female program at high school, Timberlake High School.
So would they operate with a separate schedule?
No, I can't,
Because,
so Idaho they haven't sanctioned girls wrestling.
right,
Same with swimming, same with some other sports. So it's just under wrestling, if they sanction it, then you have to have separate practice, separate coaches, everything has to be separate.
right.
And they haven't done that yet.
So why are we moving in that direction?
It's
Well-
the superintendent's recommendation. I don't know.
I think what needs to happen is all of our wrestling coaches, head coaches need to sit down with the ADs and see what this looks like as a group, and just kind of talk about it and figure it out, because, I mean, I don't know this guy at all, so, I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable sending anybody with our girls or doing anything with our girls unless he was around, And it's terrible because, like, they have one girl up there and we came in co-op. So there's some mention of co-oping together and have practice with all the girls, but we can't do that. If we do that, then we have to do it with the boys. And then guess what happens? We have to move up in division.
You're
So,
combining the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Which would be
Mr.
kinda
Hagsted-
good. I don't know if
Mr.
I can find-
Hasted is here and this is his.
If he would like to come to the
Oh,
yeah.
podium, that would be great.
It's gonna take me a bit.
Not a worry, we'll be patiently waiting.
Chairman Thompson, Board of Trustees, Josh Hagstead, Assistant Principal. Where this came about is we only have the one female wrestler. And the concern was that female wrestler was missing out on opportunities to go to certain tournaments. Since the state has sanctioned girls wrestling, there has been multiple tournaments that conflict with the traditional tournaments that we have gone to. So in doing so, all our coaches have gone to those events that we have been to, and our one female wrestler who her father has been a volunteer coach the last 2 seasons and will continue to be a volunteer coach. All we're asking that he would have the same able to do the same responsibilities as a paid coach as he does the volunteer coach, and be allowed to travel with our a female wrestler, which happens to be his daughter.
Which he can.
And we're good with that.
Yeah.
And as we continue to grow the girls program,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're okay with having a volunteer assist. I agree with you, and I think he should have the same responsibilities. I didn't want us to get into a pickle with having him with responsibilities that he should not have.
Yeah, the parent could take a kid anywhere they want to go. It just counts towards their dates.
Yes.
And what I understand from this girl is she'll go to a dual tournament or something, and there's nobody for her to wrestle.
Correct.
And so.
And then if we go to Raleigh, of course, we're not going to the J Hut.
Right.
So we want to take our female, hopefully
Yeah.
many, to specific girl tournaments.
I move to approve.
I have a couple of questions. So what is our liability in that, and what is the financial cost to the district?
At this point, there is no financial cost to the district because Dad's providing transportation to his daughter. And he's a volunteer coach. Liability wise, I can look, I did not reach out to Megan. I can reach out to Megan and ask the question. However, what I have found is that this has been our way of getting programs started. And so I can clarify that for you.
Probably I could be able to tell us what that liability is.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes,
I'm
that's
fine,
right.
it sounds great, I just wanna make sure, and especially if we're gonna grow it, you know.
It's not just him, but
Right,
his
right,
daughter. Yep.
right, exactly.
And I can tell you, he is not here. That is his intention.
Problem is, we got a bunch of men coaches, and I wouldn't even want to take a girl overnight anywhere,
Mhm.
you know. And so then you got to have a chaperone probably for the girls,
Mhm.
and so I mean, there's just a lot that goes into it.
Absolutely, and I hope we have that problem, right? I hope we have
Yeah.
25 girls in the room. But right now, we do
Right.
not, we're currently, but the one wrestler that we do have, I do not want to prevent her from having
Right.
opportunity
Absolutely,
that other female wrestlers and other programs have.
I don't see that being any different than us having a male girls basketball coach. I don't. So-
They usually don't spend overnight. You know? Yeah. State-
They don't go to state? Yeah.
State, but
Yeah.
don't they take moms with them and stuff usually down there?
Would we
I'm just
not?
saying,
Would we not have
There's
parents? that-
situations where I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. That's all.
I'll
I
second
heard
the
two
motion.
conflicting comments. You indicated state has not sanctioned it. You indicated state has sanctioned it.
Idaho has sanctioned wrestling, so girls have their own state tournament.
Yes, they do, but they're not sanctioned.
As a
separately.
separate, yes. So when I said sanctioned, so previously there was not two separate state tournaments, right? If a girl qualified for a state, that would be wrestling against the boys at a district tournament. Now the state has separated those state tournaments, so there's a girls' state tournament and a boys' state tournament at the same time, but different. And so in doing so, these programs are growing the programs, and they are having girl-only tournaments. And those tournaments, again, which put us in a pickle. And we're willing to invest and spend entry money to get our one female student in. It's purely that role of a voluntary coach. Again, voluntary to me just means he's not getting paid, but he has the same responsibilities and is as important to a coaching staff as a woman or man that's getting paid.
What's the balance between male programs and female programs?
Balance meaning,
For Title IX.
Number, yeah.
Oh,
Depends what school district.
I'm talking about
Hours.
Oh,
you know,
so we had 5, 6 this year.
so if you look in just participation numbers, obviously we have more male students wrestling.
I'm talking about programs.
He's talking about programs, so
What just in
female
Lakeland?
athletic programs versus male athletic.
And that's
programs.
where we would get into is a program, it's not a separate program. You know, we have a wrestling program, we have boys and
What I hear
girls.
you saying is it will be.
We would want to, oh, absolutely, I'd love to have.
So that's why I'm asking the question.
Okay.
So if it
Sorry.
does separate so in the fall we have volleyball and football, and then you have boys and girls soccer. For Lakeland High School, you have golf Timberlake High School golf is in the spring, but both boys and girls play golf. In the winter time, we have boys and girls basketball and wrestling. And so we do have girls wrestling in the program, so if they separated, you're still equal. And then in the spring, it's track and it's cross country and
Yeah.
golf for
And the only programs we've added, I don't know about Lakeland, have been, in this case, a female sport. So we would be in compliance in that way with Title IX, that we're not adding two boy sports and adding a girl sport.
I would just comment, I've experienced this a number of times. Most programs start out this way, with a volunteer coach and a handful, and with little or no cost to the district.
Right.
But every one of those programs now is full-fledged, paid coaches, additional costs.
Right.
So if we sanction this, just be informed that that's where you're headed.
Yeah, well, that's
We don't
just
sanction it though.
all the levy.
We're gonna sanction it here,
No, the
No.
state sanctions
on
it.
a different level.
Yeah.
He means approve the program,
Right.
knowing that there will be a financial cost in the district,
Absolutely.
right? And that's where our levy comes in, because the levy dollars pay for all sports. If there's no levy, there's no sports dollars.
And again, just to clarify, Trustee Jones, all I'm asking for is, and it sounds like we're already there without even vote, is just having a volunteer coach be able to take that a female wrestler, which again happens to be his daughter, so there's no concerns like.
So is he
Mr.
currently a volunteer coach?
Yes, has been for the past 2 seasons.
Okay, and he's currently been traveling with his daughter on tournaments?
Yes, not necessarily. Because we were from the understanding that it would require a little more work on our end from the board to get him approved so that he could handle those responsibilities.
So our volunteer coaches don't go to any tournaments? Or to
No,
any
this is the
state
problem.
play?
A couple years ago, they said volunteer coaches can't go.
Who said?
The superintendent.
Okay,
So a paid coach could take kids because they're paid, but a volunteer coach couldn't take it because they weren't paid. Whatever. I mean, they were
Okay.
paid. Volunteer wasn't paid. So you
That
can't
might be
take
my
kids,
ability.
which makes no sense because you go through the same background check as everybody else when you're coaches.
Same interview process, they meet with coaches and.
They're just not our employee.
Right.
so it sounds like, because Trustee Grissom would like clarification on the liability of volunteer coaches, and I think if we have clarification that volunteer coaches are allowable to travel with the team and go where they go and do their thing, then it sounds like that meets what you're actually asking for.
Absolutely.
However, what the superintendent's asking for is to begin a female wrestling program. So is that what you want this board to consider?
I want to grow, no, we're not at that point, right?
Okay, okay,
We're just, trying to take care of the one female wrestler that we currently have.
right,
And then in that process, we are gonna rely on our volunteer coach
right,
to, again, if he would be seen through the board's eyes, they're obviously seen through our school's eyes as a coach.
right.
We would give him more responsibility as far as getting in the middle schools, getting into the youth programs and growing our program.
Okay,
And we are not there yet.
okay, fair enough.
I just wanted the board to understand that if we go down this path, to Trustee Jones' point, we could end up with a situation like the swim team that we have at Lakeland High School, which started out kind of in this way and grew, and now it is something that we pay for. And so I just, their intention is to grow the program. I just wanted the board to be aware of that.
I did second Trustee Bain's motion.
Thanks, Cheryl. So we have a motion and a second
What is the motion?
to approve.
Approved. Coach, that's already approved.
Well, the superintendent's
Recommendation, which is to hire, so they're in the, is an expense.
Well, she
Oh,
said,
he's
that's why
already
she said
hired.
hire in quotes.
He's already a coach.
Approved
He's already a volunteer.
to allow.
I think we're making it complicated and it doesn't need to be. So the motion is to approve the superintendent's recommendation, and we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the RFQ construction manager general contractor.
Jessica Grantham, CFO. Trustees, we did go out to RFQ for construction manager general contractor to go through the process of getting quotes and doing the bidding process for the exterior projects for John Brown Elementary in the district office. We received 2 bid responses, one from Emmerich Construction and one from Core Construction. And while both are very equally qualified for the award, it was recommended by the committee to move forward with Emmerich Construction for the bid process.
Is there a dollar amount attached to it?
Not yet. So this is just us picking the firm who will then go out and basically generate what it would cost to do the build.
When we contracted with Emmerich before, we had a fairly elaborate presentation about them and their background and their personnel and so on and so forth. We don't obviously have that for the other firm.
I have 2 copies of them. I received paper copies that I did not get to scan into this.
Why don't you just explain the basis for your recommendation?
I would like to bring fellow committee member Mike Ferriola, Director of Facilities up.
Mike Perdue, Facilities Director. The basis for the decision, honestly, is selfishness on my part. It would be easier on me. I have a relationship with these guys. They've proven what they can do. To start over with a new company, although qualified, it would be more labor intensive on my end. So simply that.
They're both equally, like I said, qualified. It's just we've already had an established working relationship with Emmerich. We do have the THS Fieldhouse RFQ out currently, and we'll encourage both of these companies to also put their hand in for that as well.
I do like that Emmerich is local. Core is a national, and they're Boise based. Our architect has done a little bit, and nothing bad whatsoever. They are working on the expansion of the Coeur d'Alene PD. Core is. Yeah, I mean, I could have gone either way. It's just with all the things coming my direction, it's less getting to know and the process involved with it. Emmerich is turnkey. I don't have to worry about much.
Neither one of these provided financial information.
There is no financials associated with it yet because they have to be chosen in order to bid out the project.
Well, this just says bid response information, so instead of qualification
Sorry,
response
that's my bad.
information.
That was a copy and paste error. I apologize.
What we received essentially was a portfolio of the company, an overview of each company, projects they've worked on, information that way. Very, basic stuff that you would see when considering a company to do a capital project. And again, like I said, it was simply put, that was the reason why I chose them, or recommended that we just stay with Emmerich.
Is there a reason we couldn't get financial bids from both of them to make that decision?
They
We
would.
can only just pick one?
Typically you pick one because the amount of work and effort that goes into the bidding process, it is a formal process that we would be able to sign off on and move forward with the project at that point. So typically you just have the one do that work for you. We don't pick both to do all of the legwork.
The choice is based on qualifications of the company, both their personnel as well as the kind of work that they've done, and the fact that we have experience with them in the past, in one case, not the other, and so on and so forth. As Jessica points out, they're a construction management firm, and so until they're employed to that extent, there's no money involved until they actually go out and seek construction bids for the project. Then they get a percentage.
Right.
So Core has great history with education, lots of schools, higher ed, K through 12.
I would be happy to scan both of the packets for the board in my next financial follow-up. I apologize that we're.
Oh, you have the, okay.
I do, they were paper copies, so I didn't have enough for everybody.
Okay, because they look pretty competent too. Weren't we the first school project that Emmerich did?
Yeah, they have done a lot of school projects, a lot of K-12 projects. I'd have to go look back through the history there. I met with CORE, a representative from there, and we walked, the buildings and such, and I really could go either way. Both companies are extremely qualified. It simply just came down to, again, for me, is having to start a new relationship with somebody. I know how Emmerich works. It would be the easier route to go, but I wouldn't have been opposed to.
I do want to remind the board with the 18 million that we have coming on board for the facility money from the state, we will have a lot of projects coming up in the next year, or over the next several years with that House Bill 521 funding.
With respect to the comment about being local with Emmerich, some of that personnel are local.
Correct.
The company itself is not headquartered here.
No, they're based out of Oregon, but they set shop up in Sandpoint. Yes.
Just to clarify.
Yep.
So I would move to table this until we have the documents from both companies, just to make that decision.
No problem.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, moving on to approve, deny running of supplemental levy. Did I? Okey doke. Oh, yes I do. The facility project approval.
The facility department is requesting the use of plant facility funds. I'm sorry, Jessica Green, CFO, Mike Ferriola, facilities director, to complete EDIT updates, maintenance throughout the district's quotes have been sourced to provide lowest cost estimate. So there's some plumbing and electrical work that needs to be done at Apple and Spirit Lake to go in conjunction with this lighting project. That's about $10,800. John Brown Elementary, we are looking at doing 3 rooftop heating units that are a replacement part of our 10-year plan.
There are 3 units on John Brown that are over 25 years old, and they're problematic for us. And I would just assume, based on last winter's experience with all the issues with pipes and such, that we don't go another winter with intermittent heat in any building.
And I will say 34 was a great quote. We received quotes ranging from 34 to 50,000 for that. So it's actually, I feel like, a great quote for that one. All of them actually are. Lakeland Middle School has some roof repairs that have to be done
in conjunction with what Emmerich is going to do for warranty. We have issues on that building. I still am chasing contractors that were brought in prior to me related to roofing. That work was not really that good, and it's caused us a lot of grief. And so in order for, and this again, like if you remember the problems we were having at the middle school were unforeseen. I can't blame Emmerich. It wasn't something that was part of their scope of work, but we've identified the issue now, and I have to get the roof top squared away so that they can get their repairs done this summer.
at no cost.
Correct.
To
Correct.
us.
No additional
Right.
cost.
No
Correct.
additional cost to
Correct.
us.
So that's what that dollar amount is for.
Mountain View has some door replacements that need to take place. That's around $10,000. And so that's $90,310. They would be completed over the upcoming summer. Additionally, Timberlake High School will need an emergency roof repair due to ice dams and the damage that they're causing. This project cannot be covered by insurance. Mike did get a quote to me. I just didn't have it in time to get it into the board packet. So I can share the dollar amount with you if you would consider that. It is $67,000 to get the roof repaired at Timberlake High School. So all total, we're looking at about $157,000 out of plant facility funds to complete all of these projects.
I have a question. Where's all the concrete work that we're supposed to be doing?
We are bidding that out.
Okay.
What's the nature of the roof repair at Timberlake?
So Timberlake High School, along with a couple of our other schools up north, are notorious for building ice dams. I mean ice dams.
In the valleys?
Mm-hmm. And I'm talking ice dams that are
Yeah.
right? So this has been a little bit of a thorn in my side for a few years. I went and we put heat tape, you know, I'm trying to get ahead of it that way. Heat tape is a topic of conversation amongst a lot of people. I can't get a sway one way or the other, whether it's worth it or not, but that was an effort I made to try to stop this from happening. What we are gonna do, we actually, the shingle manufacturer flew out last week and met with myself and my roofer and came up with a repair plan for 3 targeted valley areas. And what we want to do is we want to tear out the shingles and put double underlayment of ice and water guard down in these areas. The other thing with Timberlake High School is we have some architectural issues that we're dealing with. The amount of square footage that's draining off into these valleys is monumental. And that adds to some of our problem in the wintertime too. And so the double layer of ice and water guard along with the synthetic underlayment, which we already have, even if the ice infiltrates these spots, it won't get in the building, and that's the goal, right? So that and of course, you know, ice dams with roof warranty are non-existent. So we have to do it. We tore off a small section last week to investigate and make sure this is what we wanted to do, and this is all under the guidance of the shingle manufacturer in conjunction with the roofing company. So
Manufacturer guarantee color match.
Yep.
Watch it.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Be a different nylon.
What's that?
Be a different nylon.
Yeah, could be, but they're yeah. I mean, Malarkey is a top-notch company.
Can we answer any further questions about the projects? There is room within the plant facility levy to complete these. We've only spent to date about 112,000 of the 1.1 million that we had allocated for this year. So there is definitely room to take care of these.
We've expensed nothing out of the emergency repairs fund.
Right, so 100,000 of that could come out of there.
So you're asking for approval on the first 4 up there?
I'm asking for approval, and I apologize, I would like to actually have the 5. I had mentioned in the paragraph below the 4 that we had that emergency roof repair at Timberlake High School, but we didn't have a dollar amount when this document was prepared to come before the board. We got the quote for that early this week, and so
What was that number again?
it's 67,000 for the roof repair at Timberlake High School, which would bring us up to 157,310.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, now moving on to the running of the supplemental levy.
Move to approve.
Second.
Question?
Oh, wait. Can I amend it to add the million back into supplement, into curriculum?
Please.
Yes. I'll second.
So it needs to come out of
Everywhere else.
what?
Jessica Griffin, CFO. The million was taken out of curriculum and kind of spread over the other categories. We are finding that our interscholastic activity programs are, we didn't budget enough in the original levy. The 1.5 that's on there is roughly what it costs us this year to run interscholastic activities and athletics. So that's where that came from. What we were hoping to do by pulling curriculum out is using the levy money for more of those items on there and then freeing up more of the state money to use for curriculum so that we could build it into the budget there. Because the curriculum adoption has been, what's the appropriate word, sporadic, slow. We only spent $88,000 of curriculum on this last year's supplemental levy, and so the rest was utilized elsewhere within those those approved categories that were on the ballot. We do have to do reporting on that. So my train of thought is we will build it into the budget, but utilize state funding instead of levy funding for curriculum.
Okay.
We
Well,
do
it's
have-
on here, so I'm confused then. It's on here.
For the 23, that was what, the top box is for the 23, is what we did for the
Okay, the
23 ballot,
split.
the,
Well, the
yeah,
page
the-
splits
yeah,
the
it
page.
is, yeah.
Oh, I thought
It's
it
split
was
weird.
all the
Yeah.
one thing. I thought it
No,
was
so
still
that-
on there.
Yep, the top one's for May 16th, 2023, and the bottom is from November, what we're proposing for November 5th. Like I said, my plan is to build the curriculum into the state funding versus using levy funding for it.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was two. It looked like just
Yeah.
one. I looked at it and said, oh, it's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we anticipating doing the social studies adoptions next year?
We are
And science.
anticipating, science is done.
Oh, yeah.
We are anticipating, and that's actually down in the discussion item. Lynn will have an update for you, so.
So this year we did go through a social studies adoption process. But social studies standards changed. We looked at multiple, I think at elementary, don't quote me on this exact number, but I think we looked at 6 different programs for K-5, I think 5 or 6 for middle school, and then 6 or 7 for high school. K-5, there were either things in there that we just felt like were not appropriate, or it just wasn't quality. It was what we currently have. It either was the same, or what we currently have is better. And so part of the notes that are down lower is the recommendation from the K-5 team is they want to stay with what they have. They just want to beef up. So to Mr. Quimby's point, us kind of building our own curriculum and beef it up a little bit so we have more vertical alignment. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade were kind of, we had lots and lots of meetings where we just could not find that one. So there would be a 6th grade alignment where the standards were really aligned to the textbook, but then it wasn't really strong in 7th grade, and then there were pieces in 8th grade. So we did not feel like there was one standout program, although there is one building that would like to pilot a program just to see if at certain grade levels if it's a little bit better, and then we could beef up pieces. And then high school did find one, both Lakeland High School and Timberlake High School would like to pilot TCI. Ideally, we would have finished this process this year, but we spent several months just reviewing the material, coming back, having lots of discussions about the quality of it, comparison. They were really trying to find one program that covered all of the facets of history that they needed with government, econ, all of those pieces. And so the high school, all of them, but high school really did a great job of just really being intentional about taking the books and aligning it with their standards, so it just took us longer. So my proposal later on is that we do the traditional adoption at the start of the school year, bringing in parents, doing the whole like we normally do. We didn't get there this year because we spent so much time reviewing the material. So if the board approves an adoption, it will be for high school at this point. K-8 would like to continue to keep looking, and while we're looking, we beef up what we're currently doing. That's their recommendation from the team.
One of the issues with the social study standards, which is different than math, ELA, or science, is that the social study standards are not consistent across the nation. Idaho has their own standards, and when they made the change, they're very different from what they used to be, so they're not really in alignment anymore with what a traditional publisher would publish. So 3rd grade is no longer about communities, and 1st grade is no longer about family, and I live in a state, and my city is this. Now, in every grade level, we have U.S. history, we have economics, we have government, we have financial literacy.
There is Idaho history built into all of those as well.
They're just, so we're having a harder time finding a textbook that actually supports Idaho standards in social studies for that reason.
And the team did a really good job of trying to ensure that alignment. So our first, before we found high school a pilot program, we really just talked about again, to Quimby's point of just beefing up what we currently do and making sure that alignment and scaffolding down. And I had probably 7 or 8 volunteers that said they would help me do that work. The high school did find a program to support that, so we still will do, we're gonna pair that together.
It was easier for high school because high school standards are still kind of the economics, the
Yeah.
government, though,
Right.
so it's the K-8 standards that have significant.
So for the high school level, 9 through 12, we
Mhm.
will be adopting something.
Yes,
If the pilot.
With some cost involved.
yes.
And we already have that, we spent a lot of time looking in the budget of where we could fit that in. So I've already asked for a quote of just if the pilot works out and we like it and it all works, what would that be? So I'm waiting on that quote.
Okay, I won't amend Ramona's. Are you still,
What is that?
are you still motioning to?
No. I thought it was the same as what we had. I just think it's really important that we have that line.
Well, I guess the other issue, this is a 2-year levy adoption proposal, correct? So the year after, this coming year, what will be up for adoption?
We actually have a break, so that's the other reason that we thought for at least this go around that we didn't really need to put the curriculum line item in there. Because we still have, I think, 2 or 3 years before we have to go out and re-adopt math.
I will just add though to your point of the 2-year, our ELA middle school teachers definitely, and I would say social studies, they've requested that I continue to look, and as new publishers come out and there's more, so that's just part of, so at some point I think I will bring back, because if you remember we adopted a K-5 ELA program, but we did not do a 6 through 12. And so middle school, I've heard from the most, they would like something, but the reason why we didn't go with adoption is, again, what they currently have, all of the programs we looked at either matched it, or what they either thought the authentic text was the better way to go, or it literally was pretty much the same story. So I do feel like I have to do my due diligence per their request to continue to look for.
So if you have a year off,
Alignment.
are you saying you're not gonna buy any textbooks, no replacements or anything?
We have in the budget and have had for the last probably 5 years, a $200,000 curriculum line item that Lynn and I have kind of split between elementary and secondary. So those kinds of costs are taken care of through that line item and not through the big curricular line item that we have.
And it's not just textbooks, it's all the licensing of curriculum and all the online, I mean, you know, everything.
It's all the
involved in it to
assessment
make-
tools.
right.
So I am going to bring to you in July, one of the things that we've heard from loud and clear for secondary is it's really hard to be calibrated on our standards and our assessment tools when there isn't an orange test. And so we have found one that we really like. So I'm going to bring that proposal to you. So those kinds of things are always
Out there.
So.
And, you know, I just don't wanna lose sight of the fact that curriculum is probably our second most important
Absolutely.
goal to
Right.
always have out there.
Yep.
And I feel like we're walking away from that a little bit, so.
Right.
So I'll agree to this. I'll say it ahead of time before we go.
Bless you.
I'll agree to the, with some heartburn, the total levy amount, if you put $500,000 in there for curriculum.
Well, I'm curious on our safety and security needs. When I look at the total, it's definitely going up a significant amount. And then when I reflect back on what was, I was gonna say this right, in our budget report, the amount that is going to the fiscal year 2025 is $60,952, because the fiscal budget for 24 was 58,280. However, that's incorrectly identified on the
Sure.
financial reports.
That is, you're looking at the safe and drug-free schools. In the general fund, it's actually quite a bit more for the budget for safety and security.
Okay. But I thought I heard you say that what was in the safe and that fund went to safety and security for.
It does. So in
Okay.
the general fund
Small
budget,
portion. I know it's a small portion. I'm just looking at the overall whole total dollar amount that we have invested in this program and how it is significantly growing. That was my only point. On top of the fact that on our financial reports, what's presented in that same fund is not. It's actually what you're saying is for 2025. So
okay.
I thought that was a little odd.
So in the general fund, I'm sorry, I'm waiting for, my computer's gonna die on me, so I'm hoping I get this pulled up quickly. In the general fund, if you look on page, the budget hearing or even in our monthly financial packet, there is a safety and security program. Last year we had budgeted $184,474 for salaries, $54,000 for benefits, and $59,500 for purchase services. Next year I have salaries and benefits increasing, and I also brought purchase services up to $215,000 to accurately reflect the true cost of the contracts that we have for our SROs. So that overage that's currently in the Safe and Drug-Free Schools Fund is going to be transferred to the general fund under the security and safety program. So the reason I'm asking for more money in the ballot language is because it does cost us that much to actually run the program. We didn't ask for enough the first time around. And we're not funded necessarily for that. Plus, we wanted to bring on one more armed guard, and that additional funding would allow us to do that.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. There were other reasons for me pointing out the significant growth,
Right.
Which we'll just move on.
I will point out though that when we ran the levy the last time, the numbers that were put in there were not necessarily what it costs to run the program. It was numbers to get us to that 9.52. So what Jessica is trying to do is actually look at the budget and see what does this part of the budget actually cost us and have it accurately reflected on the ballot language.
And that's how we got to the $1 million, because the one program that we adopted for curriculum was just over 750,000. Right, so if they've got 2 set aside, Bob asked for 5, we're close. So I do have a question now that we're back to the safety and security. You just said that the 200,000 is what we pay. How many contracts, how many MOUs do we have at SROs? 3? So we paid $200,000 in 3
There's
contracts?
more than that that's in there. It's not just SRO or contracts. We have like our crossing guards and things like that in there. So it's safety and security throughout the whole thing. It's not just SROs and armed guards.
Oh, well, that's what you
Yeah.
said. I was just
So
repeating
I apologize.
what
Thank you
said.
for clarifying.
Okay. Because I thought, oh, okay, that's between 3 people. I did the wrong job.
Some days I question my career choice as well.
Yeah. Okay. So we have an amendment to your motion. Did you accept his amendment?
It was your motion.
Oh.
It was your, oh.
No,
But he withdrew. She
Okay.
withdrew.
Okay.
Yeah, and he said $500,000, or, yeah, $500,000, 500,000 into the levy for
For
curriculum.
curriculum.
Yeah.
Yes, I was second.
Not adding to the levy, but out of the total.
Right.
Where
Put
the
it back into the
allocations
line
are.
item at
Right.
$500,000, right. So we'll end up with the $500,000 line item. We'll just take a little bit out of each one to get to the $500,000.
Yes.
Half of whatever they took out of her.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. Yep. So do we need that's an amendment to your motion. Somebody's seconding. I'll second it. What?
Randy seconded.
Okay.
Because you withdrew. Bob threw it out there because he thought he was amending hers, but the emotion actually is now from Bob.
Okay.
She
And I
seconded.
seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Right, please refresh your screens. What attachment did you add?
J1 for learning materials.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I apologize, I missed it.
It's okay. So it would seem that the language that the superintendent is asking us to consider would be taken back to policy committee to be added to the policy, to bring the policy to us, because the policy has not been approved. With that being said, I mean, I have no qualms with now classifying everything that's not board-approved curriculum as learning materials, but then I would say we should get away from identifying supplemental curriculum because people don't understand the difference between supplemental and curriculum. So things either need to be curriculum and non-curriculum and call it good, or something else needs to be defined as if what we're going to consider a supplemental curriculum. Which my understanding of supplemental was that it's enhancing the teacher's work environment for curriculum. Whatever they're teaching, we got extras to make it go farther. What we're being asked is to not have to approve that which is being used to support the curriculum. So Lisa came up with the language, and we need to give her direction. This isn't an action item.
Well, I mean, what's the direction? You take the language to policy committee?
Yeah, I'll
Oh.
put it in the policy.
Okay.
Yeah, do it. Okey-doke.
I just, are there questions about anything? This language is actually from the model policy, and there was a lot of collaboration on it.
But we don't have the entire policy. So
Right.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Let's
No.
just take it back to the policy, bring the policy back to
Yeah.
the board, and so that they have an entire picture instead of just this little snippet of language. Okay, moving on to spring drug testing results. Well, at least the substance was only nicotine. Any comments or questions on the results?
No.
Okay. Further discussion to supplemental social studies adoption update, which I do believe we've already received.
Yeah, I think we.
The
Do you
form,
have more to?
okay. The form to appeal open enrollment revocation. This came about because,
We had that one appeal to the board, but we didn't
Correct.
have a form, and so
Right.
you asked, need to put together a form.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, other than it needs to be cleaned up and make sure that it has, you know, page 1 of 2 and all that kind of stuff, you know. Yeah, I mean, other than it looked fine to me, just formatting, you know, needs to be more
Like a form?
indent and
Form
quote
would
the
be good,
statute
yeah.
instead of, it all just sort of ran together, but,
right. Okay.
but yeah, it looked fine to me.
I will make it pretty.
The other thing I was thinking when I looked at the form, outside of cleaning it up and formatting it more properly and the page numbers, was that we should also ask for any supporting documentation if they're appealing and they have some type of supporting documentation. And if they do, then the documentation also needs to be identified with the same identification that's on our form. So like their name, and because if it gets lost, you know, we'll know where it goes, who it goes to.
And I think it would be beneficial to at least have, your saying for them to supporting documents as to why. We also need the document or an explanation somewhere on this form as to why it's being revoked, because that's not on here. So if we're giving them a form or we're giving them a letter or whatever we're doing to say we're revoking, that needs to be incorporated with this form so that we have all the information. Any other direction or discussion on this? Okay. Moving on to the safety hardware inventory.
What is a beacon?
It's, so we have flashing blue lights in our building so that when a lockdown drill is called, if it's, maybe it's a passing period and the halls are loud and you can't hear the notification, we have blue lights throughout the school that will flash so that you can see it.
So it really is a beacon.
It is really a big one.
I imagine this white light at the airport.
No, it's attention Kmart blue light shoppers.
It's a lighthouse.
There we go.
We're putting turrets on all of our buildings.
Turrets. Okay, any questions or discussion on the safety hardware?
No, thank you for doing that, Lisa.
Hearing dates. Basically, that's on there. We needed to give the board or the clerk, if she needs to schedule a hearing and she's not getting responses from all the trustees for availability, is there a day that she can at least hold on to, knowing that if she has to schedule a student hearing for whatnot, she can do it and we'll be okay with it. We won't, chop her up at the knees or anything.
This is just in general,
Yep.
a day of the
Yep.
week that she
Yep.
can just say, this is what day of the week we
Right.
schedule hearings for.
Right.
I'm good with anything.
Okay. With respect to the fact that, if it is a expulsion hearing, we are on a time deadline, so that would fluctuate. But for truancy hearings or other types of hearings that we may need to hold with enrollment revocations, things like that.
No, I mean, I don't really have a day of the week. Mine's more of a time constraint, as long as it's after 5 o'clock, I try and squeeze it in.
Are we looking at next week? Is that what you're saying?
No, we're looking at in the month. In general, is there a preference of day?
Not a specific day this month.
Any day in the last week of the month, except any day of the week.
like Tuesdays or Wednesdays. This is like going on, this is not just in this specific
We
month.
don't have a
Generally,
hearing
Tuesdays
coming
and
up.
Wednesdays are not good, but the last week of the month is okay.
You
So
moved the
Thursdays?
meetings to Wednesday.
Actually, I think that was me.
And I think
Wednesdays are not good.
I like Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Wednesdays.
I like Wednesdays.
Sorry,
Sorry.
so Monday's wash, Tuesday
Yeah.
the brain's just getting going.
Thursday.
Thursdays. Yes, please.
So,
What, is that good for you?
We have policy on Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
well, you know what, we're not gonna be having these every week, and that can be both moved or they can meet in there. It's not that it has to shut down just because we have to hold a meeting, so we'll cross that bridge. Perfect. Legislative roadshow information, Lisa had provided her notes. And back when the notes were provided, I said, oh, it would be good if some context behind your note taking. But we are this far down the road, so I don't know if we need to have a lot of discussion on this, if everyone's pretty content with where we're headed and what occurred at the roadshow back in.
Well, I just have a question on all the training videos. I would want to know if any of those were available online, or how do we listen in, or it would have been nice to know that that was happening, so we could have heard.
Are you talking about the facilities, the modernization?
Well, I have to go look now where it.
Those are all archived and you can go and watch them at any time.
Yeah, those were the ones I think they were more,
The facilities funding training webinar.
maybe that's what it was.
Yeah. Those,
Some were specific day, or month, day, da-da-da, that kind of thing.
yes.
Oh yeah, there's webinars all throughout here.
Yeah,
For the facilities, yeah, those are all archived and you can watch them at your leisure.
okay, great. And where are they?
On the State Department, Jessica, on the State Department website. Is there a particular place? Do you know?
School finance.
School finance.
The dates, apologies, the dates won't match quite up. The state adjusted them after that. But,
Yeah, that's fine.
but there's several webinars available out there.
Okay.
They're very dry.
Yeah, it's not a very woohoo topic, but it's
I
good
mean,
to have
it's
the
a
information.
Hugely woohoo.
All right, any other further things on the roadshow info? Okay, moving on to the district strategic plan. Okay. So we have it for review and feedback. Anybody have any feedback?
I'm in zone 4.
Oh, do I have that on?
Bob's in zone 5.
Yep.
Thank you. There's a lot of information in here, and so I let Board Chair Thompson know that I was just going to bring this to you as a discussion item tonight, so that you have a month to kind of chew on it, and then I'll bring it back as an action item, and if there are things after you've had a month to digest it that you want me to change, I can do that, and we can table it next time and I can bring it back. But there was a lot of really good work with some very dedicated community members. So happy to answer any questions you have or take any feedback.
I don't have any right now. yes, I did. I breezed through it. I didn't read. I started a word for word, and then I'm like, oh, there is a lot here.
There's a lot,
Yeah. Yeah. But it looked really good. I mean,
Input, Bob? Okey doke. Anybody else have any comments on it at this moment?
I did remember the pages.
yeah.
Moving on to harassment and bullying data for the 23-24 school year.
So that's information that I have to collect every year, and it's I have to present that or provide that to the state in order for us to be able to access our safe and drug-free school dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So I do collect it, and I just thought you might be interested in looking at
I see a lot of zeros.
it.
Yeah. What is the metric for determining if there's bullying or harassment? I mean, I see male single incident bullying, male single incident harassment, and then we've got weapon, drug, etc. So, I mean, how is bullying determined?
Bullying is defined to be targeted, persistent attacks, I guess, toward a group or an individual. So when we have those situations, we deal with them in that way. Harassment doesn't rise quite to the level of bullying.
Okay, so let me rephrase. So is it more about the student reporting to an adult? Is it about an adult identifying a student being targeted? Is how are we getting?
Yeah, it's all of the above. So the way the state has us report it is if a student is suspended out of school or in school for half a day or more for these behaviors, we report them. So that's how, and it could come through any of those avenues. It could be an adult who observes it. It could be a parent who reaches out and notifies the school and they do an investigation. There are lots of avenues.
Okay. Any further questions or comments on it?
Okay.
The quarterly Heritage Health data. Any conversation to be had there? Nope. The class size review. Conversation or discussion to be had on this?
There's some large classes, but yeah.
All right. Workshop dates for curriculum, data, and facilities. We now know we can hold them on Thursdays.
And we can do the curriculum and the data together.
Okay.
If
When are you looking to host those workshops?
I think that Mr. Ferriola would love if we could do the facilities first, just so that he can start planning for the projects that the board wants to complete. So July.
And this
then-
would be for next school year?
Mhm.
Okay.
And then we typically do our curriculum and data in August.
August? Okay.
We can do it in July if that's when you'd like to do it. And then we have the SIP that we'll have to plan.
Great. Okay. So we will pick a Thursday in July and
Hopefully the second week. I'll just throw this out there that I'm on vacation the first through the 10th. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other plans that we need to, if y'all want to just put it on the calendar, so
Mhm.
that would be helpful. For the clerk. Not for me, because in July, are you going away, Bob? Are you going on vacation?
Every day.
Every day's a
He's
vacation for
retired.
Bob. Got it. Are you
Every
traveling?
day's a Saturday.
Are you traveling outside of the boundaries of Cook County? Okay. What about August? Because I know you and your wife vacation, so.
I don't think so.
Okay. So a Thursday would work for you? If we gave you enough notice? Okay. Pick a Thursday. Like the 3rd or 4th week of July.
The 18th,
Perfect.
that's a
Okey-doke.
Thursday, the 3rd week.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. That would be for facilities and then follow up for the first part of August, I guess, for curriculum and data. Title I audit. Questions, comments, or discussions on that? No. Good
I
job.
mean, I appreciate the information,
Mhm.
yeah.
We had several federal programs that audited this year, so
Mhm.
Jessica was really busy.
All but one.
While you were trying to also do budget work.
I do, just go over it.
Board meeting equipment. People still complain that they can't hear us. I'm fine, but
Where?
Bob can't be heard. Sometimes you can't be heard because you guys are so far away from the mic. So I don't know if we want to consider going to the individual table mics so that at least our voice is picked up and people can hear what's being said. I know for several years asked about it, but we got a new mic because money was not going to be spent here, and as long as it's not expensive, or if we can create a budget for it, I think it would be beneficial to move to where we're clearer on the audio.
Yeah, the problem is we didn't have the capability in this room to do that.
Okay.
So that's why we were trying to we could probably get a better mic
Okay.
that would pick up everybody better, or it might be able to put one other one in here.
Oh.
But that was the problem, is we don't have,
Right,
we're not set up to have all this technical
Right.
equipment, you know.
right.
But the tech guys can look at, probably give us a list.
Well, and we definitely want whatever hardware we do find, we want it to be able to be portable so that if we do need to have a meeting somewhere else,
Right.
we can take it with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's been one of our constraints with trying to have meetings elsewhere so that we can
Right.
accommodate more people. So that would be my
Okay.
request, is that we have some.
That was all.
That's what-
So, Maria, can you reach out to tech and ask them to look into being able to provide a better quality audio for board meetings and what that might take? Perfect. The RJ development and resolution.
That was time sensitive, and I typically, the CFO and I would submit a comment on the district's behalf, but this one, if we were to say yes to it, there was money attached to it, and they were requiring a board motion with approval through a resolution, which is why I had asked Maria about reaching out to the board to see if that was something that you wanted on the board agenda. They actually had to have that tonight for the city council meeting. That's why I had asked her if we could put it on the agenda, the meeting that was canceled.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it, so when I saw it, I thought, what, no phone call, no email or anything from you, so I didn't know what was transpiring with this. And then I was a little concerned because it's my understanding that if someone's gifting or donating, we cannot require a financial amount attached to it.
No, we didn't.
So,
We didn't.
no, I understand that, but I would be cautioned by putting that into a resolution stating a dollar amount when we're titling it with gift and donation, so.
Chair Thompson, this draft resolution is actually a mimic of one that we had from Corsa Development in the past under the previous CFO. It complies with our district policy to accept the gift. So that's the only reason a draft resolution was prepared.
Okay. Well, weren't here with that CFO, and he was kind of chastised and told he couldn't do that, so
Wasn't aware.
that's all. But yeah, I didn't.
We did provide a neutral comment.
Okay. So was this something with respect, because we used to get notification as a board when there were developments that were going on, so that we could be aware within our planning. So is this in response to that? I mean, is,
Yeah, so that we have that spreadsheet that has the links, but we haven't added any new links because we haven't been asked
Haven't
for.
had any.
Mhm.
Okay,
So this is
okay.
the most recent one.
oh, okay.
And then I knew you were out of town at your training, so I just asked Maria if she could reach out to the board and ask if the board was interested in adding that one item, so, and that's why I didn't come directly to you.
Okay. All right. Well, I can't imagine that the opportunity's been missed in the sense that if they want to gift it to us, they will.
But my understanding is the offer will stand regardless. It just depends on whether or not they're annexed into the city at the meeting tonight.
Yeah,
Trying to annex that parcel?
Yeah.
Whoa,
Which,
whoa, whoa.
which,
That's too close.
It's right across the street from K-Tech and then.
You would have had to have been at the city council meeting tonight to provide public
Yeah.
comment.
we've been saying no, but,
Oh, it's Lancaster.
now with the declining enrollment, we thought if there's no harm in saying yes at this point, and if they're going to gift us money, then it could go into our fund to try to buy.
Well, they could still gift us money. That's
Yes.
always an option, but. Okey doke.
We're
Any
going
other?
for P&Z or council?
Council.
Council.
Council, so that's
So-
the final step.
Yeah, so they submitted their application, and then council came back and said we can't consider this without comment from the school district, which is why it was so rushed, because we got it and they told us that we have to have it at the city council meeting on the 12th, and our only other option was the date of that special board meeting, so.
But you did provide comment to it though.
Yeah,
We just
I'll
need
give
a
them
neutral.
the
Yeah,
neutral.
okay.
Well, if we start getting more development, can we get that spreadsheet back to the board so that we see what's
It
going
is
on?
up to date.
I thought it was in your shared drive, so I will.
It was attached to the board meeting agenda
Okay,
in the past.
So would you prefer that I bring it back via the agenda? Would you like it in your shared drive?
I think it would be beneficial just to have it under discussion if there is developments that are going in so that we're aware of it. And because the assumption that we're all gonna go look in the drive for it whenever, I don't think is
Is
fair. I don't think it's fair.
It's verification before we write comment on all of those.
Alright, so if there's no further discussion on this.
Just Thompson, I apologize. We have been providing mainly neutral comments. A lot of these are just minor subdivisions where they're taking a 10-acre lot, making it 2 5-acre lots. Do I need to bring everything to you before we provide comment, or am I okay to continue to provide comment unless it's something like this that will impact our school greatly?
What's that, or,
What's that?
let's just say subdivisions. But,
Subdivisions?
you know,
Okay.
unless it's.
I would say proceed as you have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most of them are very minimal. They're literally just a small subdivide of a larger lot into 2 or 3, which is not going to really impact us too terribly much.
Where they're not creating a whole new neighborhood.
Yes.
You'd be surprised what you can do on a few acres.
Oh, I know.
Okey doke. Any other discussion? Any input for future agenda items?
Nope, I did have input though, the form that, the board agenda request form, it's great because it gives us a little synopsis. However, the form was created to get away from the links.
Oh.
And the document needs to be attached to the agenda, because here's the problem, when there's no historical archive, right? Because it's an electronic item, so the document still needs to go with the agenda item. Because if we need to go back and find something, you know, what if somebody accidentally deletes something?
Right,
Or
or changes it, or-
You know, remember all those documents when
Mhm.
somebody left?
Yeah.
We had a heck of a time trying to get to them.
Well, and we can't make notes on the document links. We can only make notes on PDFs, so.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was the only thing. I do love that everybody uses the formula. It's
Yeah.
so much better.
It's nice to be
And
streamlined.
to bring up to what Trustee Bain brought up, because I had on my note was the seating in the gallery. We need more seating, or we need to figure out something, because I have heard from some of the community members, they feel like they're being pushed out.
Right.
They can't, the public can't come partake. They feel like staff and whomever beats them here first, and, I don't know, but I said I would bring it up, so.
Well, I mean, going back up to the board meeting equipment that's under discussion.
Yeah.
Part of the equipment we need is a location, a space. So do we need to consider moving these meetings to a different location? And we can give direction for that, so that.
Explore some
Probably.
options and.
Somewhere,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. We have. a lot
Well,
of-
and with the new House bill that's creating more work, yeah, with public comment, we are gonna have to be able to allow
Yeah.
more people to be present, so.
So, on that note then, do we need to, what would we like to?
We need a bigger
do?
venue. We
I
have to
agree.
find somewhere that's gonna accommodate everybody that wants to show up, you know? And, I mean, you know, there's been plenty of times where the counties had to just shut down a meeting and wait and go to the college because there were so many people. And, you know, we have heard that kind of here.
Right,
And,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
you can't
Yep.
blame them. So we have to go to the high school maybe, we're in the gym or something, I don't know.
Commons?
Well, and that law goes into effect July 1, so the sooner the better.
So then shall we look at moving the meetings to the high school commons area?
Nah.
No?
That's probably overkill, I would suggest.
What about the lunchroom?
Well, one of the
over
things
there?
are-
There's a stage right in the lunchroom.
That's
over
the
there?
commons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Logistics is an issue, at least certainly was for me when I was superintendent. Being out of this building for board meetings, I found inconvenient. We did it at times, out of necessity. But, you know, that's an issue. So, but that's up to the administration to resolve whatever issues come about. Just suggesting that may be out there. If we were gonna move, I would suggest we talk to the city about city council chambers.
Their chambers aren't any bigger than this room,
Oh, yeah,
are they?
quite a bit.
And you have your individual microphones. They have the individual microphones.
Yes, yeah, you know, it has some technical capabilities that we would have to find hard to duplicate. And you get in a very large room, that becomes even more difficult to hear.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Just
I guess that's the tech guys, what, you know, given those options, what would be easy for them to put us somewhere, you know?
Okay. So then Lisa, can you follow up with that?
I sure will. I'll reach out to Leon City and just see if we could.
if they're using our gyms, maybe we can use their council chambers.
Yep. We would have to move our meeting dates off of Wednesdays.
Because that's what they're.
Or at least off of the second and fourth Wednesdays, because that's when they have their city council meeting. If that, and I will also ask what their maximum capacity is. So I'll have that. And then the alternative, if that site doesn't work, then we can work with technology, but I would
probably recommend an elementary space rather than a high school space, just because, especially Lakeland High School, they have some sort of an activity in almost every room every night in that building during school, so, so I'll do some checking. We can, work with tech and see which space would provide the best, sound. Because it's not just your microphone for the camera, but also just projection.
Right.
So, so we'll work with technology.
So-
Respectfully, if we could go with the third Wednesday of every month, your financials would be a lot more accurate.
So why can't we use the middle school?
Fair.
Yeah.
Make it easier for us. Yeah.
School gym.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter.
Right.
And then we can have stuff in place for
What
the
about,
first, for the next,
Yeah.
if we needed to.
Okay, we still. On that note, so we're
So
waiting for.
can I just get clarification, sorry? Once I have this information, are we going to utilize this information when we come together in, July's not our, never mind, it's not our reorganization meeting anymore? But will you make a decision at the July meeting, or do you want to make a decision prior to the July meeting? How do you want?
Well, in order to do that, we would have to host a meeting
I would say we just make a decision at that meeting.
at the July meeting. Okay.
Yeah, bring us
So
options.
I'll bring you
and
all
see
the
what-
options,
Yeah.
and then you guys can decide where you want to go.
That'd be great. So, is there any input for future agenda items? You were thinking, so.
Yeah, I had a couple of things rolling around in the back of my head. I feel like we have an unresolved issue with the Elliott person that we dealt with,
Okay,
and didn't deal with, I guess, maybe.
okay.
And the other issue, we got a letter a month or 6 weeks ago from, about ISB membership. I think we ought to have another discussion about that.
Actually, Lisa made the comment on my board questions, which is where what I think you're thinking about. I could be mistaken, but she states on her follow-up, I'm opening the document, 14 clicks, that ICRIP is actually asking us to reconsider rejoining ISBA for liability reasons, which I don't understand, because all ISBA is a PAC group, so I don't know how that buffers us from any type of liability claims, but
Well, they do have a tie with ICRIP, because there was always a rebate on insurance premium.
Yeah, it was about risk management, so they were,
Yeah.
I think what they're.
says our insurance company is strongly encouraging us to restart our membership with ISBA from a risk management exposure standpoint.
Maybe that was it.
The type of trainings that they offer. Brooke and I met with, Jessica, you're the CFO. Brooke and I met with Chad, Ranstrom. I wanted to say Marie, and I that was the other one. Chad Ranstrom, our ICRIP person, and basically the trainings and the tools that they can offer us that we can't get really outside of that without going to legal, that just comes with that membership is huge. And access to,
Well, the trainings aren't free, so, I mean, to say that they come with it is a fallacy, that's
but
not true.
there are a lot of materials that as non-members, we do not have access to that we would have access to as members. And that was just where his recommendation comes from. ICRIP and ISBA are tied together. Technically, as non-ISBA members, they could drop us, but they're not going to. But they could, because we're not part of that organization.
The other thing is, it's
That's
a
blackmail.
little bit.
It's not, they said they're not going to drop us. They could if they chose to.
A little bit hypocritical for us to constantly use the policy stuff from ISBA and not be a member. I feel uncomfortable with that.
We've had those policies forever and a day, that's what, I mean,
Yeah.
It's not new updated stuff, it's what we had
yeah.
from the past.
Well, we just recently got some updated stuff. I think. Anyway,
Okay, so do you want to add that to it as an agenda item to have
that's
a
fine.
discussion?
Please.
Oops, wrong stick.
say that to you, Jessica, that they could drop us for not being
No,
ISBA?
no, he did not say that. He just
Okay.
said that there is a relationship there and that potentially could happen, but he was not threatening that
Because
at all.
ISBA is
He
a
actually reassured us
registered-
that was
yeah.
not going to happen.
They're a registered PAC.
Yeah,
Right.
political
They're a
action.
100% political organization. That's all they are. So for them to say that really, I mean, that's like telling
concerning.
It's
who
just
to-
more, it's
It's
more
like a union coming and telling you who to vote for. If you don't vote for them, you lose your job. I mean, really?
it was more
Yeah.
the tools. They were concerned about the tools that
Well,
that we
that's
don't
why we
have
left,
access to.
because their tools are overinflated. Their tools, the majority of the time, their tools are incorrect.
Right.
In fact, there was never a training we got and never a policy we got that was not incorrect from them. Every single time. In fact, the only person that ever came that did training, that gave us correct information and also corrected her own trainers and the superintendent at the time was,
Karen Echeverria.
yes,
Mhm.
yes, exactly. She was the only one out of all the.
When she
tra-
retired.
We had a lot of
Yeah.
training with them, and it was,
Yeah.
that's why we made the decision to go away from them, because we still had to do the work, we were still contacting the attorneys, we were still, I mean, but we can discuss it again.
We'll discuss it later. It's on the agenda.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. On that note, I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061B.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, yeah, we need a roll call vote.
Chair Thompson?
Yep.
Vice Chair Bain?
Yes.
Trustee Grissom?
Yes.
Trustee Quimby?
Yes.
And Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Perfect. On that note, we're in executive session. We're going to take a 5-minute recess for restroom relief.
Yes.
And we'll come back to the table. All right. So we've come out of executive session, and I'll entertain any motions at this time.
I move to accept the superintendent's recommendation for non-renewal of a contract for whatever that number is.
Personnel 6.12.2024A.
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. On that note, we'll go ahead and end the meeting. It's 11:40.